Chapter 57. Her long golden hair fell to her waist. Her eyebrows were curved, her skin was crystal clear, white and soft. She had a high nose bridge and an angelic face. Her sacred and noble temperament was vividly reflected on her body. She was dressed in a golden dress. Although she was a girl, she had a heroic spirit. This girl's beauty couldn't be looked directly at. She was about 13 or 14 years old and didn't look much older than Helena. However, she had matured quite well. Her figure was graceful and curvaceous. If Helena was said to be an enchanting beauty in the future, then this girl could be said to be a peerless beauty now. In terms of appearance, even Bibidon was inferior. Her beautiful face seemed to be out of this world. Although she was young, she had an indescribable charm. Unlike Helena's charm, this girl's temperament was more sacred and inviolable. With just a glance, Lu Yuan was mesmerized. His heart pounded. Lu Yuan had to admit that he was moved. This was the first time in his life that he was moved by a girl. Even if it was just a glance. Perhaps this was the legendary love at first sight. Even if he had never seen her before, Lu Yuan already knew this girl's identity like the back of his hand. In Martial Spirit City, there was only one person who could have such an appearance, such a temperament, and freely enter the plum garden. That was the daughter of the former pope, the future angel god, and the future #1 beauty of the continent, Chihiro Snow. This girl who had broken her angel god position in the original work and whose strength had been stuck at level 89 for life. Her life and experience were equally tragic. Her father was killed by her mother. She was despised by her mother since she was young and could only accompany her grandfather. When she was in her teens, she had infiltrated the Heaven Do Empire to impersonate Xue Qinghe for the sake of a so-called plan. This impersonation had lasted for more than 10 years. A girl's most precious youth had been spent undercover, and her plan had even been foiled by Tang San. Later on, her grandfather, who loved her the most, sacrificed himself so that she could inherit the angel divinity. Then, the martial soul palace, which she had entrusted her feelings to, was destroyed. The only man she loved didn't like her back. Even her mother died in the hands of the man she loved. She was left alone until she grew old. This girl's fate was too tragic. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with pity. At the same time, Lu Yuan had the urge to strangle Tang San to death. He shook his head to get rid of this terrifying thought. He wanted to make it clear that this was definitely not his original intention. It was definitely not his 3 views that followed his 5 senses. It was all the God-slaying spear's fault. It was definitely the God-slaying spear's influence in the dark. He looked at Qian Runxue from head to toe and stood there quietly. Seeing Lu Yuan staring blankly at her, Chihiro Snow frowned slightly. Why was this child looking at her with such a gaze? The pity in his eyes caused Qian Runxue's heart to tremble involuntarily. The anger she felt from being stared at suddenly disappeared. To be honest, this child in front of her was really quite handsome. Chihiro Snow muttered to herself. "What's your name? Why haven't I seen you before?" Chihiro Snow walked towards Lu Yuan. "My name is Lu Yuan. What about you?" Looking at Chihiro Snow, who had already walked in front of him, and smelling the faint fragrance of the cold wind, Lu Yuan said with a smile. With Lu Yuan's personality, it was unprecedented for him to show such a warm smile on their first meeting. Even if it was Bibidon or Yuan Xin, when interacting with them, Lu Yuan would have his guard up. Even if he smiled, there were times when he might not be sincere. However, in front of Chihiro Snow, he seemed to have let down all his guard. This was definitely not normal for Lu Yuan. After experiencing the intrigue of his previous life, in this life, other than the old man fellows, Lu Yuan had his guard up against almost everyone around him. One should not have the heart to harm others, but one should always have the heart to guard against others. However, in front of Chihiro Snow, he opened up his heart and could not feel any trace of vigilance. He had never felt such a feeling before. Especially after joining the Martial Soul Palace, in this place where almost any guardian knight could threaten his safety, Lu Yuan's vigilance was at its peak. This was because his current strength was still too weak. Even if Bibidon was very good to him, even if Helena treated him like a brother and sister, Even if he was grateful for their efforts and tried to accept them, no matter how good their relationship was, the hidden vigilance in the bottom of his heart never disappeared. However, in front of Chihiro Snow today, this vigilance disappeared without a trace. Lu Yuan's smile was very bright. It was hard to imagine that such a cold face could appear on it. Lu Yuan's smile was very infectious. When Chihiro Snow saw Lu Yuan's bright smile, her heart strangely calmed down. Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow said. As expected, Lu Yuan sighed inwardly. The beautiful woman in front of him was indeed Chihiro Snow. Little brother, your name sounds a little familiar. Whose disciple are you? Chihiro Snow felt like she had heard the name Lu Yuan somewhere before. Moreover, Lu Yuan could enter and leave the plum garden at will. He was definitely not an ordinary disciple. Moreover, without a certain status, one could not enter the plum garden. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Chihiro Snow currently held a grudge against Bibidon. If she knew that he was Bibidon's disciple, perhaps, however, Lu Yuan did not intend to hide his identity. This was because it was impossible to hide it. Therefore, he decided to be frank with Chihiro Snow. I am the new disciple of His Holiness the Pope, Lu Yuan said. Oh, I remember now. So you are that Lu Yuan who is known as the unparalleled genius. I was wondering why your name sounded a little familiar. Hihi, it's all a rumor. Don't believe it. Lu Yuan hurriedly waved his hand. If it was someone else who said this, he would definitely agree without hesitation. However, in front of Chihiro Snow, he still wanted to leave a good impression. Otherwise, how would he pursue her in the future? Cough cough. Is that so? Chihiro Snow's gaze became sharp as she looked directly at Lu Yuan. I heard that your martial soul is the legendary golden dragon. It is very powerful. I also want to see it for myself. From Chen Douluo, she knew that Bibi Dong had taken in a disciple with a golden dragon martial spirit, who was said to be comparable to her six-winged angel. Chen Renshue was somewhat unconvinced in her heart. Moreover, she had a grudge against Bibidon since she was young. She would rather treat her own disciple well than look at her as if she was her own daughter. This made Chihiro Snow feel resentful. In the end, she did not expect to meet her disciple today. Although Lu Yuan gave her a good impression, Chihiro Snow still decided to give him a good beating. At most, she would beat him lightly because he was so handsome. She wanted to see how that woman would react when she found out that her disciple had been beaten up by her. Chapter 58. There's no need for that. Seeing Chihiro Snow's eager expression, Lu Yuan felt his scalp go numb. Although he was invincible among his peers, Chihiro Snow was much stronger than him. He might not even be able to defeat Hulena, let alone Chihiro Snow. Although he liked Chihiro Snow, he didn't like being beaten up. I think it's necessary. Chihiro Snow smiled. When a beauty smiled, 100 flowers lost their splendor. Take this. Chihiro Snow's figure flashed, and in an instant, she was in front of Lu Yuan. So fast. By the time Lu Yuan regained his senses, Chihiro Snow's fist was already in front of him. Seeing the fist coming for his head, Lu Yuan took a step back and used the phoenix dance of the 6 illusions to dodge Chihiro Snow's fist. "Eh!" Chen Renshue exclaimed softly. She was a little surprised by Lu Yuan's evasion just now. She took another step forward and punched at Lu Yuan. It had to be said that Chihiro Snow was very fast. Even without her martial soul, she was much faster than Chihiro Snow. This wasn't just because Chihiro Snow's martial soul was stronger than Lin Feng's, but also because Chihiro Snow's soul force rank was very high. Although she didn't release her martial soul, the soul force fluctuations coming from Chen Renshue's body couldn't escape Lu Yuan's notice. With his astounding perception, he could clearly feel the boundless soul force within Chen Renshue's frail body. Compared to Hu Liena's, Chen Renshue's soul force was at least that of a high-stage soul exalt. This was why Lu Yuan dodged immediately. On one hand, it was because his opponent was Chihiro Snow, and he didn't want to fight. On the other hand, it was because Chihiro Snow's aura was very strong, and his soul force rank was too low. You still want to dodge? Chihiro Snow was a little surprised. This kid in front of him was very fast. Even an agility-type Soul Grandmaster couldn't compare to him. Besides his speed, his footwork was also very extraordinary. Immediately, Qian Renshue increased her speed as well. Lu Yuan's expression was serious. Chihiro Snow was very strong. This was the first time he'd seen someone who could keep up with his speed without his martial soul possessing. Lin Feng used to be beaten by Lu Yuan even when he used a soul skill, but now Lu Yuan felt like he couldn't keep up with him. This wasn't because the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions wasn't powerful, nor was it because Lu Yuan hadn't mastered it. Rather, it was because the difference in soul force was too great. Furthermore, Lu Yuan wasn't able to fully manifest the essence of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions with his current strength. Furthermore, speed had always been Qian Renshue's advantage. TSK. The wind from the punch was swift and fierce. It brushed past Lu Yuan's shoulder and tore a hole in Lu Yuan's clothes with its fierce aura. Lu Yuan turned around and looked at the hole in his shoulder. His eyes slowly narrowed. Lu Yuan was serious. He had entered his battle state. Lu Yuan, who had entered his battle state, wouldn't hold back even if his opponent was Chihiro Snow, whom he fell in love with at first sight. People like Lu Yuan were born to fight. Oh. Chihiro Snow was a little surprised when he felt the indistinct pressure coming from Lu Yuan's body. This kid in front of him wasn't ordinary. His fighting spirit was very strong. Interesting. Chihiro Snow smiled. His body moved, and his jade-like fists punched towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with fighting spirit. He clenched his fists and punched out. For the Golden Dragon, the only true meaning was to attack. As for Lu Yuan, who had entered his battle state, he was fearless no matter who his opponent was. Bang! The two fists collided, creating a burst of air. Lu Yuan retreated 3 steps before he could stabilize himself. Chihiro Snow, on the other hand, retreated 7 steps. In this confrontation of strength, Lu Yuan had the upper hand. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes were wide open. He was somewhat shocked. He was actually pushed back 7 steps by a Soul Master. How was this possible? Compared to Chihiro Snow's shock and doubt, Lu Yuan was quite calm. He had used almost all of his strength in that punch just now. After a few rounds of training, he now possessed a strength of 3,500 kilograms in his normal state. Ordinary soul ancestors couldn't possess such strength. It was important to know that the Golden Dragon possessed ultimate strength. Other than its extremely strong physical body, its most powerful aspect was its monstrous strength that could destroy everything. In the domain of strength, there wasn't a single martial soul in the entire Douluo continent that could compare to it. Even the 6-winged angel, who was known as the god spokesperson, was nothing compared to the Golden Dragon in terms of strength. The 6-winged angel's strength lay in its holy and purifying powers. Its speed and offensive strength were relatively strong. Although its strength wasn't weak, it depended on who it was compared to. The 6-winged angel's strength wasn't even comparable to the Clear Sky Hammer, let alone the Golden Dragon. It was important to know that although the Clear Sky Hammer was known for its overbearing and explosive strength, it wasn't on the same level as the Golden Dragon. Even if the Clear Sky Hammer evolved into a superb martial soul like the Celestial Emperor's Hammer, it was still inferior to the Golden Dragon. Therefore, even though there was a huge gap between Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow in terms of soul power, Lu Yuan still surpassed Chihiro Snow in terms of strength. Interesting. Chihiro Snow revealed a smile. If it was said that she had attacked Lu Yuan originally because of her resentment towards Bibidon, then now it was because she was curious about Lu Yuan. One had to know that although strength wasn't her forte, her soul power rank was still very high, and her strength wasn't weak either. But today, she actually lost to a Soul Master boy in terms of strength. How could Chihiro Snow not be curious about this? Martial soul possession, Chihiro Snow shouted in a low voice. Her body emitted an intense golden light, and holy light sprinkled down. Faintly discernible Sanskrit chanting could be heard in the air. A beautiful girl with 6 wings appeared behind Chihiro Snow, and 4 yellow, and purple soul rings rose from her body. 4 soul rings, soul ancestor. Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed. Although he already knew that Chihiro Snow's talent was peerless, she was unexpectedly already a soul ancestor at the age of 13. Even the main character of the original novel, Tang-san, was only a soul elder at the age of 13. Formidable, indeed formidable. The six-winged angel was known as the martial soul closest to a god. It was the only god-ranked martial soul in the entire Douluo continent. Sea God's Island didn't count as a continent, it revealed its true form in front of Lu Yuan. Noble and sacred. This was Lu Yuan's first impression of the six-winged angel. This kind of powerful pressure was something that no other martial soul could give Lu Yuan. In the hands of Chihiro Snow, the six-winged angel was the true six-winged angel, a true god-ranked martial soul. It wasn't like Sendryu or Chihiro Disease, who hadn't received the recognition of the six-winged angel. This sacred and inviolable feeling made Lu Yuan's breathing somewhat stifled. It was as if he was nothing more than an ant in front of it. This made Lu Yuan inwardly apprehensive. After the apprehension, a monstrous anger burst out uncontrollably. Chapter 59. Feeling the pressure from the six-winged angel, two powerful forces erupted from Lu Yuan's body. His aura soared, and two forces, one blood-red and one bright gold, erupted from Lu Yuan's body uncontrollably. The bright gold was the golden dragon. The golden dragon martial soul was the most powerful beast martial soul. It came from one of the two clones of the dragon god, the golden dragon king. It possessed the purest golden dragon king bloodline, and it had always been the one suppressing other martial souls. No other martial soul had ever dared to release its aura in front of it. The divine aura released by Qian Renshue's six-winged angel immediately provoked the golden dragon's dignity. Hence, before Lu Yuan could do anything, Qian Renshue immediately launched a counterattack. The blood-red color was the god-slaying spear. What kind of existence was the god-slaying spear? It was an existence above all martial souls in the Douluo continent. It was an extremely powerful martial soul that even Lu Yuan, its master, couldn't control. How could a mere six-winged angel suppress such a martial soul? Feeling the pressure from the six-winged angel, the god-slaying spear also unleashed its aura. Two streaks of light, one red and one gold, directly broke through the pressure from the six-winged angel's aura and launched a counterattack towards Chihiro Snow. Aha! Chihiro Snow groaned, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The pressure from the six-winged angel disappeared without a trace. The counterattack from the golden dragon and the god-slaying spear earlier had injured Chihiro Snow. The golden dragon was still fine. Although it was powerful, it was still on the same level as the six-winged angel. Even if it counterattacked, Lu Yuan's strength was still low, and it wouldn't cause much harm to Chihiro Snow. However, the god-slaying spear was different. This martial soul was too powerful. Even if it was just a passive counterattack, even if it was just a little bit of its aura, it had directly injured Chihiro Snow's mind. The god-slaying spear, other than its powerful physical attack, was more powerful because it directly attacked the soul. Just a little bit of its aura was enough to cause Chihiro Snow to suffer a great loss. Chihiro Snow's eyes flashed as he looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of fear. What was that power? Feeling the power of the god-slaying spear explode, Lu Yuan was shocked. The first time he had summoned the god-slaying spear, he had almost died. This time, it actually took the initiative to release its power. How could Lu Yuan not be worried? However, the god-slaying spear's power disappeared as quickly as it appeared. By the time Lu Yuan wanted to circulate the Clear Chi Sutra, the god-slaying spear's aura had already been completely restrained. The blood-red light on its body had also completely disappeared. Only the golden dragon's brilliant gold remained. Roar. Dragon roars rang out as Lu Yuan summoned his golden dragon. An enormous projection of a golden dragon appeared behind Lu Yuan, and a yellow soul ring with hints of purple rippled within it. Once the golden dragon appeared, the supreme beast's aura instantly spread out, and a monstrous dragon's might filled the entire area. Chihiro Snow kept staring at Lu Yuan. The god-slaying spear's aura was too shocking just now. Even the six-winged seraphim could not fight back. Now that she took a closer look, the god-slaying spear's aura had actually completely disappeared. What was that aura just now? Chihiro Snow asked indifferently. What aura? Lu Yuan was shocked. Could it be that Chihiro Snow had discovered something? It was not that Lu Yuan wanted to hide the God-slaying spear martial soul, but it was because the God-slaying spear was too strong. It was so strong that he could not control it. Once it was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Golden Dragon was already a legendary martial soul. With the addition of the God-slaying spear, which was even stronger than the Golden Dragon, such talent was too shocking. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. A Golden Dragon martial soul might not be much, but if the secret of twin martial souls was exposed, it was hard to say what would happen. His current strength was still too weak. Therefore, even if he liked Chihiro Snow a lot, when it concerned his life, there were some things that he had to hide. How could it have disappeared? Chihiro Snow's beautiful brows furrowed. She was sure that the aura that was extremely strong and almost made her tremble had come from Lu Yuan's body. But now, it had actually completely disappeared. Lu Yuan did not speak. He did not know what to say. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes sized up Lu Yuan, as if she wanted to see something. Unfortunately, other than the Golden Dragon's aura, there was no other aura. Is this the Golden Dragon? Unable to find the God-slaying spear's aura, Chihiro Snow's gaze turned to the Golden Dragon. The aura of this martial soul was not inferior to her six-winged seraphim. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded. What Grandpa said is true. From the oppressive aura of the Golden Dragon, she could tell that this Golden Dragon martial soul was indeed a powerful martial soul on the same level as her six-winged seraphim. This kid was indeed not simple, and there seemed to be a mysterious veil on him that could not be uncovered. I don't care what secrets you have, but if you dare to harm the martial soul palace, I will definitely not let you go. Even if she did not find the God-slaying spear's aura on Lu Yuan's body, Chihiro Snow would not give up. A woman's intuition was very accurate. She was very sure that the terrifying aura of killing had come from Lu Yuan's body. The Martial Soul Palace is my home. I am also a member of the Martial Soul Palace. Lu Yuan looked directly at Chihiro Snow and said firmly. He could feel that Bibidon and Hulena were good to him, so how could he harm the Martial Soul Palace? Not to mention that he had met Chihiro Snow now, so there was even less reason for him to betray the Martial Soul Palace. Lu Yuan's gaze was very sincere, and Chihiro Snow believed him. She did not tell Sendryu about Lu Yuan's thoughts. Perhaps in her impression, she also had an indescribable special feeling towards this mysterious youth. She could not help but want to uncover the mysteries surrounding this youth. Very good. Chihiro Snow revealed a smile again. That smile was so beautiful that Lu Yuan could not help but be a little dazed. Our duel doesn't seem to have ended yet. Chihiro Snow smiled, and the soul rings on her body flickered with a dazzling light. Although she was very interested in Lu Yuan's mysteries, Chihiro Snow wanted to beat Lu Yuan up even more now. You still want to fight? Lu Yuan wailed. The movements of the God-slaying spear and the Golden Dragon had already awakened him from his battle state. Looking at the 4 soul rings on Chihiro Snow's body, he clearly knew the difference between him and his opponent. Hee. Chihiro Snow laughed softly, and the 6-winged angel rushed towards Lu Yuan with a dazzling golden light. Don't hit my face. Lu Yuan's miserable voice rang out. As expected, Lu Yuan was beaten up. When Chihiro Snow was not competing with Lu Yuan in strength, Lu Yuan had almost no chance of winning. Relying on the 6-winged angel's speed and purifying power, Lu Yuan could be said to have suffered a lot, and was completely beaten up. In a situation where the difference between their martial souls was not too great, there was no need to doubt the outcome of this duel between a soul ancestor and a soul master. Touching his swollen face, Lu Yuan wanted to cry but had no tears. Chapter 60. With his swollen face, Lu Yuan walked towards the island in the middle of the lake. Chihiro Snow was really too ruthless. Lu Yuan told her not to hit his face, but her fist just had to hit his handsome face. Against Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan felt somewhat powerless. Chihiro Snow was really too strong. In the previous battle, Lu Yuan had used almost all of his strength. He felt that he could almost defeat a soul elder, but he still lost miserably to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow's second soul skill was Angel Void Form. It made her immune to physical attacks and 50% of energy attacks. It was simply a natural counter to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's strongest point was his strength. When physical attacks were ineffective, Lu Yuan naturally had no chance of winning. In the end, Chihiro Snow seized the opportunity and beat him up. Lu Yuan felt that unless he comprehended spear intent, he might have a chance of defeating Chihiro Snow because Angel Void Form was indeed very strong. The Golden Dragon did not have energy attacks, but Lu Yuan had already planned out the first 3 soul skills: strength, defense, and attack. Perhaps only from the 4th soul skill onwards would he have a spiritual or energy type attack. However, if he comprehended spear intent, with the power of spear intent, even Angel Void Form would not be immune to it. This was because the attack power of spear intent was neither a physical attack nor an energy attack. It was more like a spiritual attack. Angel Void Form would not be immune to this kind of attack. When my strength increases one day, I will definitely teach her a good lesson. She actually dared to attack my peerless beauty. Lu Yuan secretly lamented in his heart. Qian Renxue was the woman that he had set his mind on pursuing. A man could not possibly be weaker than his woman, right? This was something that a male chauvinist like Lu Yuan could not accept. From now on, I will double my effort. Lu Yuan nodded vigorously, secretly cheering for himself. Junior brother, what happened to your face? Who hit him? Seeing Lu Yuan beaten black and blue, Helena's heart surged with anger. In the past 2 months, Helena liked her junior brother more and more. Although he was a little cold on the surface, he was a very easy person to get along with. The relationship between the two of them had become quite close. Now that she saw Lu Yuan being beaten up so badly, how could she not be angry? It's all right, senior sister. It's just that I'm not as skilled as him. Seeing Helena's angry look, Lu Yuan's heart warmed. Helena really treated him as one of her own. However, Lu Yuan didn't want to say anything. Firstly, he liked Chihiro Snow. He wanted to rely on himself to conquer this woman, and not rely on others. Secondly, although Helena was talented, there was a huge gap between her martial soul, cultivation aptitude, and her own soul power when compared to Chihiro Snow. Helena was not Chihiro Snow's opponent at all. Junior brother, you don't have to be afraid. Just say it. No matter who bullies you, senior sister will help you get back at them, Helena said. Lu Yuan's mouth hooked up into a smile, but he touched the wound on his face and grimaced. It turned out that when Chihiro Snow hit his face, he mixed in the purification power of an angel. This purification power condensed under the wound, hindering the recovery of the wound. Otherwise, with Lu Yuan's recovery power, he would have recovered a long time ago. It's really all right, senior sister. I will get back at them myself, Lu Yuan said softly. Seeing Lu Yuan's determined look, Helena could only sigh and no longer ask. In her heart, her evaluation of Lu Yuan went up another level. Not relying on others, but relying on his own strength, such a person undoubtedly had a better future. Taking the ointment, Helena prepared to apply it on Lu Yuan. Just then, Bibidon walked in. Hey, Abuchi, what happened to your face? Bibidon said in surprise when she saw Lu Yuan's handsome face was bruised. Before Lu Yuan could speak, Helena's voice sounded. Junior brother's face was hit by someone, but when I asked him who it was, he refused to say. Oh. Bibidon's gaze turned to Lu Yuan. Is that so, Abuchi? Lu Yuan nodded and said, this is because my skills are not as good as others. I admit defeat wholeheartedly. I dare not trouble senior sister. Bibidon nodded, but she was a little surprised in her heart. Lu Yuan was still very famous in the Pope's palace. Even people who had never seen him had heard of his name. Moreover, with Lu Yuan's strength, there were not many people here who could defeat him, let alone make him admit defeat wholeheartedly. Even Yang and Xie Yu of the Golden Generation couldn't. So who could have hit him? Looking at Abuchi's appearance, it seemed that he wanted to help this person cover up. Bibidon was a little curious and waved to Lu Yuan. Abuchi, come, teacher will apply the ointment for you. Saying that, she took the ointment from Helena's hand and went to Lu Yuan. The ointment was specially made by the healing soul masters of the martial soul palace. It was very effective. It was cold and comfortable when applied on the face. Bibidan's movements were very gentle. Her slender fingers were like jade as she gently applied the ointment. Feeling the hidden purifying power under Lu Yuan's cheek, Bibidan immediately knew who had injured Lu Yuan. No wonder Lu Yuan lost so miserably with his fighting strength. It turned out that his opponent was Xiao Shui. With such a big gap between their ranks, it was normal for Ibuchi to lose. But why did Xiao Shui attack Ibuchi? A trace of unnaturalness flashed through Bibidan's beautiful eyes. She seemed to have thought of something, and the movements of her hands became more gentle. A gentle soul power was emitted from Bibidan's palm, dissolving the heavy hidden purifying power. Without the purifying power, Lu Yuan's injuries would recover very quickly with the help of the ointment. After applying the ointment, Bibidan looked at Lu Yuan and revealed a trace of a smile on her face. She asked, "Ibuchi, have you been to the plum garden today?" Lu Yuan nodded. "Go a few more times in the future," Bibidan smiled. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was stunned. Then, he nodded. He would naturally go to the plum garden again. Helena's beautiful face revealed a trace of confusion as she watched the two of them talk. What kind of riddle are these two playing? Although she didn't understand, she didn't insist on getting to the bottom of it. She was a very smart girl. Since her teacher and junior brother didn't want to talk about it, she wouldn't ask anymore. She only secretly remembered a name, Plum Garden. Sometimes, time really was like flowing water. It flowed away without any return. In the blink of an eye, more than a year had passed since Lu Yuan joined the Martial Soul Palace. Now, Lu Yuan was 8 years old. During his time in the Martial Soul Palace, Lu Yuan only went to 2 places the most. One was the library pavilion, because there were all kinds of Soul Beast 100 solutions inside, as well as the only book that had been passed down. It recorded many legends of the continent. The other place was naturally the Plum Garden. He went to this place almost every day, because someone he cared about would appear here. Chapter 61. The Plum Garden was still the Plum Garden. It was late spring and early summer, and there were no plum blossoms at this time. A plum garden without plum blossoms wasn't beautiful. However, to Lu Yuan, as long as she was there, the scenery would be the most beautiful. Chihiro Snow leaned against a plum tree and smiled at the youth who was approaching. "You're here." Chihiro Snow's voice was gentle, and she smiled sweetly. "Yes, you've been waiting for a long time." Looking at the beautiful girl in front of him, a gentle smile appeared on Lu Yuan's cold face. That warmth seemed to be able to warm one's soul. "Are we still going to spar today?" Lu Yuan asked softly. Over the past year, the two of them had sparred in the plum garden almost every day. It could be said that they understood each other very well. Apart from the Godslayer spear, Chihiro Snow knew almost all of Lu Yuan's soul skills and martial arts. Lu Yuan also knew Chihiro Snow's soul skills like the back of his hand. After sparring for more than a year, the two of them had established a very good relationship. Chihiro Snow, who lacked care since he was young, also received meticulous care from Lu Yuan. The two of them had a very close relationship. If not for Lu Yuan's young age, perhaps their relationship could have gone further. However, even so, Lu Yuan had already left a deep imprint in Chihiro Snow's heart. Conversely, it was the same for Lu Yuan. "No, I have something to tell you." Chihiro Snow shook his head gently. She understood Lu Yuan's fighting strength very well. He was an absolute genius who could fight above his level. Furthermore, his learning ability was astonishing. In more than a year, he had improved very quickly. She also benefited from Lu Yuan. Her combat experience had improved very quickly, and her strength had increased by a lot. Of course, Lu Yuan basically lost every time they sparred. This was because Chihiro Snow's soul power was too high. However, if their soul force was suppressed to the same level, Chihiro Snow had never won against Lu Yuan even once. This was because Lu Yuan's fighting awareness and techniques were simply too astonishing. Chihiro Snow had to admit that he was inferior to her in terms of combat experience and combat skills. "What's the matter?" Lu Yuan was a little puzzled as he approached Chihiro Snow. Perhaps it was because his martial soul was the golden dragon, but Lu Yuan's growth rate was relatively fast. Although he was only 8 years old, his height had already reached Chihiro Snow's chin. Chihiro Snow's figure was quite tall. At the age of 14, he was already more than 1.6 meters tall, not much shorter than Bibidon. Lu Yuan was also close to 1.5 meters. Lu Yuan was very close to Hua Yuhao. The distance between the two of them was less than 20 centimeters. This was a very intimate distance. Sensing the figure beside her, and lightly smelling the special scent coming from Lu Yuan's body, Chihiro Snow's beautiful face didn't change at all. To her, this wasn't the first time they were in such close contact. "I might have to leave the Martial Soul Palace," Chihiro Snow said softly. Her beautiful eyes carefully looked at Lu Yuan. There was a trace of reluctance on her face. "What did you say?" Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan, who was originally lightly smelling the fragrance, suddenly raised his head and looked straight at Chihiro Snow. The two of them looked at each other in the air, and an indescribable atmosphere was emitted. "Why?" Lu Yuan seriously looked into Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes and asked. Lu Yuan's eyes were very pure, without a trace of impurity. Chihiro Snow took in the strong reluctance in his eyes. Chihiro Snow's heart trembled, and then a sweet feeling filled her entire heart. She didn't know what was wrong with her. Although the boy in front of her was only 8 years old, she always had a strange feeling about him in her heart. She didn't know what this feeling was, but every time she saw this boy in front of her, she would feel very happy and relax. "There's a mission that requires me to carry out. This is very important to our Martial Soul Palace." Chihiro Snow met Lu Yuan's gaze and said with a smile. "Mission?" Lu Yuan frowned, and a memory surfaced in his mind. That plan, was it about to start? "This plan is very secret. I can't tell you." Chihiro Snow's voice had a trace of apology, as if she felt guilty for hiding the mission from Lu Yuan. "You're going to Heaven Do," Lu Yuan said indifferently. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes widened. "Take Xueqinghe's place." Chihiro Snow's eyes revealed a trace of disbelief, and her beautiful face was full of shock. "How did you know?" Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan with great shock in her eyes. Looking carefully at Chihiro Snow's eyes, there was only shock and astonishment. There was no killing intent. Lu Yuan smiled with satisfaction. "How did you know?" Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. This mission could be said to be a top secret. Only a few people knew about it, and the rest didn't know about it. In the entire Martial Soul Palace, only Bibidon and those with the rank of elders and above had the qualifications to participate in this plan. Even the Platinum Bishop of the Heaven Do Empire's Martial Soul Temple, Sarkaz, only knew a little about this plan. But Lu Yuan actually knew the core of this plan. Even if he was the Pope's disciple, he didn't have the qualifications to know. This was because he was only the Pope's disciple. For the real upper echelons, the status of the Pope's disciple was not as high as one would imagine. Unless one could become the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace, only then would one have the qualifications to participate in this plan. Chihiro Snow did not doubt that Lu Yuan had the qualifications to become the Holy Son, but the problem was that he needed time. The current Lu Yuan did not have enough strength to support the title of Holy Son. Looking at Chihiro Snow's shocked expression, Lu Yuan's face curved into a smile. "This guess is not difficult." With a smile on his face, Lu Yuan began his explanation. With his hands behind his back, he began to act pretentious. Cough cough. "This is actually not difficult to guess." Looking at Chihiro Snow's puzzled expression, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Who do you think is the Martial Soul Palace's greatest enemy to unify the continent?" "The Sionra Empire and the Three Upper Sect." Chihiro Snow replied. "Bingo." Lu Yuan snapped his fingers and said, "You're right. To the Martial Soul Palace, the two empires and the three upper sects are all enemies. Among them, the Sionra Empire and the three upper sects are the greatest threats." "Why?" Looking at Lu Yuan's confident face, Chihiro Snow's interest was piqued. "The current emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, Shui Yi, is not a wise ruler. He does not have enough control over the duchies in the empire. Furthermore, the duchies in the Heaven Do Empire have a lot of power, and they all have their own agendas. Furthermore, many of them are close to the martial soul palace. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, the Heaven Do Empire's system is rotten. The aristocracy's style is rotten, and the fighting strength of the army is low. Furthermore, they lack powerful soul masters. The royal family is not very strong. To the martial soul palace, the Heaven Do Empire is not a big threat. Due to its corruption, we have the opportunity to take advantage of it. On the other hand, the three upper sects and the Sionra Empire are different. Each of the three upper sects has a titled Douluo. They control the most elite soul master factions other than the martial soul palace. This is especially true for the Clear Sky sect and the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. The Clear Sky sect is the #1 sect on the continent. The number of titled Douluo they have is second only to the martial soul palace. Furthermore, every one of them has a top-tier martial soul like the Clear Sky Hammer. They are very strong. Chapter 62. Furthermore, the Clear Sky sect has a feud with our martial soul palace. It's almost impossible to rope them in. Even though the Clear Sky sect has retreated from the world, they've never stopped thinking about reappearing. They've only been accumulating strength in secret, so we can't underestimate them. Then there's the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. After the Clear Sky sect retreated from the world, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect became the #1 sect on the surface. They have titled Douluo, the Sword Douluo, and the Bone Douluo. Furthermore, they're no ordinary titled Douluo. They're both above rank 95, and the Sword Douluo has even reached rank 96. In addition to Ning Fengji, who's known as the best assistant in the world, the two of them are equivalent to 4 titled Douluo. Even our martial soul palace can't underestimate them. Even though the Seven Treasures Glazed sect doesn't have a feud with our martial soul palace like the Clear Sky sect, they're undoubtedly closer to the Heaven Do Empire and hostile to our martial soul palace. Hence, we have to pay close attention to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. Even though the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect is the weakest sect, their sect master, Yu Yuanjin, is still a rank 95 titled Douluo. They can't be underestimated. As for the Sionra Empire, they're not like the Heaven Do Empire. They don't have an iron fist. Every emperor of the Star Luo Empire ascended to the throne by stepping on the blood of his brothers. They don't have any mediocre rulers. They have great control over their duchies, and even our martial soul palace can't infiltrate them. Furthermore, the Sionra Empire has been allied with the Zhu family through marriage since ancient times. Their Hell-White Tiger fusion skill is very powerful. Furthermore, the Star Luo Empire's army is extremely powerful. Even though they don't control many soul masters, they have an extremely large army. They're a huge threat to our spirit hall even though they're outnumbered. Therefore, the three upper sects and the Sionra Empire pose a greater threat to us, while the Heaven Do Empire poses a lesser threat. If the three upper sects and the Sionra Empire join forces, the soul masters of the three upper sects and the million-strong army of the Star Do Empire will pose the greatest obstacle to us unifying the continent. But even if that's the case, why are you so sure that my mission is to infiltrate Heaven's Do and take over Xue Qinghe? Chihiro Snow asked. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow speechlessly. You can't even think of this, and you want me to say it myself? Fine, I'll let the omniscient Uncle Lu tell you. Don't worry, let me analyze it bit by bit. Let's not talk about other things for now. There are very few missions that you can call confidential, and from what I know, there aren't any missions in the Martial Soul Palace that need to be kept confidential from me, unless it's a secret that will allow the Martial Soul Palace to grow stronger. Our Martial Soul Palace is already strong enough, and if we want to grow stronger, we have to make a move on the two empires. According to some information I've received from my teacher, she has plans to make a move on the two empires. Based on this, there's a high chance that your mission is related to the two empires. Of the two empires, Heaven's Do is the weaker one, so it's easier for you to complete your mission. Therefore, you must go to Heaven's Do. Furthermore, let me talk about the benefits of infiltrating Heaven's Do and taking over Xue Qinghe. First, there's the issue of the army. Our martial soul palace has the strongest soul master force, but soul masters are still very rare on the continent. We still lack the ability to fight large-scale armies. However, if we can infiltrate Heaven's Do and secretly take over the Heaven Do Empire's army, then our martial soul palace's only weakness will be made up for. We won't be in a passive position against the Star Do Empire's million-strong army. At the same time, we can eliminate the Star Do Empire's greatest advantage in one fell swoop. After that, we can plot against the three great sects. The Clear Sky sect aside, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect has a close relationship with the Heaven Do Empire. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect is neutral, but they don't have any ill feelings towards the Heaven Do Empire. At the very least, they're more inclined towards the Heaven Do Empire than our martial soul palace. Once you successfully impersonate Xue Qinghe, you can use this to rope in the Seven Treasures Glazed sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. Even if you don't succeed, you can still establish a good relationship with them. This way, when our martial soul palace makes a move against them, you can provide us with information and deliberately lure them. It won't be difficult to eliminate them in one fell swoop. Lastly, and this is also the most important point, this is also the reason why I believe that you should take on Xue Qinghe and not the others. Although Xue Qinghe is the eldest prince, he isn't valued by the Snow Knight Emperor. Normally, he doesn't pay much attention to him, so it won't be easy for him to be discovered. Furthermore, Xue Qinghe is the eldest prince after all. The Heaven Do Empire isn't like the Sionra Empire, where it's purely based on ability. As long as you succeed in taking over the role and make some contributions, it won't be difficult to gain the support of some ministers. The chances of you ascending to the throne are also very high. Lastly, Xue Qinghe's age is about the same as yours. Although he's a man, he's a gentle person. Furthermore, his body shape is very similar to yours. Based on his body shape, he's the best candidate for you to take over. If I'm not wrong, you should be learning to imitate Xue Qinghe's habits. Because you've been leaving the martial soul palace frequently for the past few months, I think you've already started to lay low. It's only now that you've almost learned all of Xue Qinghe's habits and ways of doing things, so it's time for the plan to begin. Chihiro Snow's heart was filled with shock as she watched Lu Yuan speak with assurance. Is he still human? He's simply a monster. However, Chihiro Snow still had a trace of stubbornness in her heart. Then why don't you tell me why I'm the one going and not the others? She didn't believe that Lu Yuan even knew about this. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan looked at her with pity in his eyes. Seeing the pity in Lu Yuan's eyes, Chihiro Snow's heart felt slightly warm. After sighing, Lu Yuan continued. After all, such a mission is top secret, so the person carrying out the plan must be the most trustworthy. I don't think there's anyone more trustworthy than the daughter of the previous pope, the current Holy Lady of the Martial Soul Palace. Furthermore, Lu Yuan's voice paused for a moment before he said, no matter what kind of disguise it is, there will always be flaws. However, according to what I know, the angel race has a set of inherited soul bones. One of the soul bones' skill is camouflage. Even a rank 99 exceptional Douluo won't be able to see through it. The inherited soul bones requirement is that one must have a six-winged angel martial soul. And besides the great consecrator, only you have a six-winged angel martial soul. As he spoke, Lu Yuan looked straight at Chihiro Snow. After hearing Lu Yuan's analysis, Chihiro Snow's delicate body trembled slightly. You're so smart. Chihiro Snow sighed softly. Lu Yuan's analysis was really unique. She was indeed the most suitable person for this mission. Looking at this boy in front of him, Chihiro Snow's heart trembled slightly. Apart from his exceptional talent, this boy's intelligence was also extraordinary. How do you know so much? Chihiro Snow was a little curious. There were many secrets, such as the angel's soul bones and Xue Qinghe's situation. Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled that Lu Yuan knew all of this. Lu Yuan didn't answer directly. He only smiled faintly and said, nothing else. I just see more, listen more, learn more, and think more. Really? Chihiro Snow was a little doubtful. Of course. Lu Yuan smiled slightly. He could only answer Chihiro Snow in this way. He couldn't possibly say that he was a transmigrator, so he knew everything very well. That was naturally impossible. Although Chihiro Snow didn't believe it, Lu Yuan spoke so confidently. Although she was a little doubtful, she still chose to believe Lu Yuan. Oh yes, other than this matter, I have something else to tell you. Chihiro Snow smiled. What is it? Lu Yuan was interested. I found a new teacher for you. Chihiro Snow had a mysterious smile on his face. What did you say? Chapter 63. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan's face showed a trace of shock. You found yourself a new teacher? Are you sure you're not joking? Lu Yuan couldn't believe it. After all, his teacher was Pope Bibidon. There was actually someone who dared to be his teacher. Did they think that Bibidon didn't exist? Your teacher has already agreed. Chihiro Snow seemed to have seen through Lu Yuan's doubts and smiled slightly. Really? Lu Yuan's eyes widened. Did Bibidon look like someone who was so easy to talk to? Of course it's true. Chihiro Snow said. By the way, how did you do it? Lu Yuan was interested and asked curiously. I'm not telling you. Chihiro Snow winked playfully and revealed a mysterious smile on her face. Don't tell me, forget it. Lu Yuan muttered. Presumably, this girl must have discussed something with Bibidon in private. When are you going to leave? Compared to his own new teacher, he was more interested in when Chihiro Snow would start her plan. Because once the plan started, he wouldn't be able to see Chihiro Snow often. About 3 days later, Chihiro Snow smiled. 3 days later? Lu Yuan muttered to himself. If I leave in 3 days, will you miss me? For some reason, Chihiro Snow actually said such a sentence. As soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted it. Of course, I will always miss you. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with gentle eyes. Chihiro Snow's pretty face turned red. She turned her head away, but her heart was slightly sweet. Even though she repeatedly told herself that the boy in front of her was only 8 years old, perhaps because Lu Yuan was overly mature, she unconsciously treated him as someone of the same age. She had matured early. Having lived in a place like the Martial Soul Palace, she was used to deceit and deception. She had also suffered a lot since she was young. Her mind and scheming were top-notch. Naturally, she knew a lot. There was no need to mention Lu Yuan. Beneath the face of a child was the soul of an adult. The two of them had been exchanging pointers for more than a year, and a hidden line had long since connected the two of them together. It was just that those involved could not see clearly, and neither of them had noticed it. However, as time passed, this line would bring the two of them closer and closer. You've already broken through level 20, right? Chihiro Snow asked. Lu Yuan nodded. Just a few days ago, he had broken through level 20, and he was only 8 years old. With this kind of talent, other than the innate level 20 Chihiro Snow, no one in the Martial Soul Palace could compare to him. What kind of soul ring are you preparing to hunt? In order to break away from the embarrassing atmosphere, Chihiro Snow took the initiative to change the topic. Lu Yuan did not think too much about it. He smiled faintly and said, I'm preparing to find a defensive soul skill, so I should be hunting some soul beasts with stronger defenses. The soul beast with the strongest defense should be the black tortoise, right? Chihiro Snow laughed softly. Lu Yuan nodded. The black tortoise was indeed the best choice, but it was not easy to find. This was because the black tortoise was a transcendent soul beast on the same level as the Titan giant ape. A soul ring from a transcendent soul beast like this was naturally a treasure, but it could only be found by chance. According to Lu Yuan's thoughts, the black tortoise was undoubtedly the best soul ring. However, if he really couldn't find one, he had a few other soul rings that were one rank lower. For example, the black-scaled black tortoise was a soul beast that possessed a thin Chilean bloodline. It was also one of the best in the world of soul beasts. Its defensive abilities were not bad, and it also had a good resistance to poison. It was very beneficial for increasing one's physique. The golden tortoise was an auspicious soul beast. Although it was not as good as the emperor beast, it also possessed good luck. Although it did not have much offensive power, its defensive abilities were extremely strong, and it was not inferior to the black tortoise. Furthermore, it was a gold-type soul beast. Perhaps it could give Lu Yuan a very strong defensive soul skill. The golden tortoise soul armor was a top-grade defense-type soul beast. Its scales had extremely strong defensive abilities. It was also a gold-type soul beast that specialized in physical strength. It was also a very good choice for Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan explained his plan to Qian Renxue. A look of admiration appeared on Qian Renshue's pretty face. "You know a lot." Chihiro Snow's clear voice rang out. Of course. Lu Yuan intentionally revealed a proud look to Chihiro Snow. He was very happy to receive Chihiro Snow's praise. Lu Yuan had been learning from Grandmaster since he was young. Although Grandmaster did not take the initiative to teach him anything, Lu Yuan was very talented. He only needed to read once to remember the contents of a book. He had basically read all of Grandmaster's books. In addition, he had been flipping through the books in the Martial Soul Palace every day for the past year. Even if his research on soul beasts was not as good as Grandmaster's, it was not far off. What he lacked compared to Grandmaster was practical experience and experience. After all, he was still young. However, when it came to understanding the various soul beasts on the continent, he was even better than Grandmaster. Sometimes, profound knowledge could bring about a unique attraction. Back then, Grandmaster had attracted Bibidon's attention and even fell in love with him because of his unique knowledge. He had left a wise impression on Bibidon, causing Bibidon to be unable to forget him even now. However, Lu Yuan was different from a master who only knew how to talk. Not only did he possess profound knowledge, but he also possessed great strength. He was proficient in both civil and martial arts, and he was also very handsome. One could imagine his charm, but he was still a little too young. Otherwise, he would have been able to conquer Chihiro Snow in more than a year. "Then I'll leave the problem of matching my soul rings to you in the future," Chihiro Snow joked. "Okay, I'll definitely find the most suitable soul ring for you." Lu Yuan's tone was serious as he looked into Chihiro Snow's eyes. Chihiro Snow's heart thumped. What she was most afraid of was looking into Lu Yuan's eyes. This was because her heart would beat uncontrollably every time they looked into each other's eyes. However, Lu Yuan liked to look into her eyes the most. Every time, he would look at her gently. This made her feel embarrassed and angry, but at the same time, she felt a little sweet. Looking at Lu Yuan's passionate yet gentle eyes, Chihiro Snow panicked and changed the topic again. "Aren't you curious about who the new teacher I found for you is?" New teacher. Hearing Chihiro Snow take the initiative to mention this new teacher, Lu Yuan's interest was piqued. It seemed that this new teacher might be of great help to him. Otherwise, Chihiro Snow wouldn't be so concerned about this problem. "It seems that although this girl doesn't say it, she still cares about me." Lu Yuan felt a faint joy in his heart. However, he already had Bibidon's guidance. Bibidon's teaching ability wasn't inferior to Grandmaster's. Even Sendryu might not be able to beat him. This meant that this new teacher wasn't teaching him about martial souls. Then, he must be similar to him in some aspect. This similarity should be reflected in his martial souls. Chapter 64. In terms of martial souls, other than the god-slaying spear that he had yet to reveal, there was only the golden dragon left. The golden dragon's forte lay in its physical body and strength. Although Bibidon's soul power was high, that wasn't her forte. Her two martial souls, the Death Spider Empress and the Soul-Devouring Spider Empress, were darkness-type martial souls that specialized in poison. Clearly, this wasn't the same as Lu Yuan's development. In the entire Martial Soul Palace, there was only one person who specialized in strength and physical body, and was qualified to teach Lu Yuan. That person was the second consecrator of the Elder Hall, the Golden Crocodile. The Golden Crocodile King was a rank 98 pinnacle Douluo. Only he was qualified to be Lu Yuan's teacher when Lu Yuan had already become Bibidong's disciple. Only he was more suitable than Bibidong to teach Lu Yuan about strength and physical body cultivation. This was because their martial souls were technically gold type. It was just that the Golden Crocodile King was a top-tier gold-type martial soul, while the Golden Dragon was a top-tier gold-type martial soul. If I'm not wrong, it should be the Golden Crocodile, right? Lu Yuan smiled as he looked at Chihiro Snow. How did you guess? Qian Renshue's charming face was filled with shock. This time, she was really shocked. She hadn't said anything yet. How did this guy guess it? It's very simple. Lu Yuan was secretly amused as he looked at Chihiro Snow's shocked expression. Ever since he met Chihiro Snow, her expression was always cold and arrogant. Even though Chihiro Snow gradually lost her arrogance in front of him, her beautiful face was still cold and only thawed occasionally. What Lu Yuan loved to do the most was to see her cold and aloof face filled with shock and astonishment. It was indeed very interesting. Therefore, he always liked to show off in front of Chihiro Snow and tease her. Looking at Lu Yuan with his hands behind his back and acting like an expert, Chihiro Snow gritted her teeth in hatred. What she hated the most was Lu Yuan's mysterious appearance. For some reason, just looking at him annoyed her. Are you going to tell me or not? Chihiro Snow lowered his voice. Speak, speak. When he saw Qian Renshue's stiff expression, Lu Yuan stopped fooling around and immediately told her about his deduction. As expected, what greeted him was Qian Renshue's shocked gaze. Your intelligence is truly astonishing. Fortunately, you are a member of the Martial Soul Palace. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan with a rare solemn expression. This boy was truly as intelligent as a demon. He was truly able to see the bigger picture from small details. If the two empires were to have such a genius, then it would be a huge threat to the Martial Soul Palace. Fortunately, he was a member of the Martial Soul Palace. Chihiro Snow felt a sense of relief in her heart. Brute courage alone wasn't scary. Pure intelligence wasn't scary either. However, when intelligence and martial strength were gathered in one person, it was a very scary thing. Such a person was very scary. Seeing Chihiro Snow's solemn expression, Lu Yuan waved his hand in front of Chihiro Snow's eyes. What, are you shocked by me? Alright, stop fooling around. Chihiro Snow grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and stared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes. Promise me, you will never do anything that will let down the Martial Soul Palace. Lu Yuan had never seen such a serious expression on Chihiro Snow's face. His expression also became serious. What's wrong? Promise me first. Chihiro Snow didn't answer Lu Yuan's words. She only held Lu Yuan's hand tightly and said word by word. Seeing Chihiro Snow's serious expression, Lu Yuan held Chihiro Snow's hand tightly and said, as long as you are a member of the Martial Soul Palace, I will never do anything that will let down the Martial Soul Palace. Really? Chihiro Snow blinked her beautiful eyes. Really? Lu Yuan nodded. Although Lu Yuan liked to joke in front of Chihiro Snow and tease her, when it came to serious matters, he would never joke. Chihiro Snow stared at Lu Yuan. In addition to sincerity and calmness, there was only gentleness in Lu Yuan's eyes. At this moment, Chihiro Snow believed him, but she couldn't help but ask, what if I'm no longer here? She really wanted to know if something happened to her, would Lu Yuan still wholeheartedly serve the Martial Soul Palace? That's impossible. Lu Yuan immediately said. I mean if. There are no ifs. Lu Yuan decisively interrupted Chihiro Snow and said word by word, as long as I'm still alive, I will never let anything happen to you. Chihiro Snow smiled. Her smile was absolutely beautiful. She didn't know how she felt about Lu Yuan, but after hearing Lu Yuan's words, she was very happy, very happy. Looking at Chihiro Snow's beautiful smile, Lu Yuan's heart was moved. Amidst Chihiro Snow's surprised cry, he pulled her into his arms. Chihiro Snow was shocked at first, but for some reason, she didn't take the initiative to struggle. Just like that, she was embraced by Lu Yuan. With a soft and warm body in his arms, Lu Yuan tightly hugged Chihiro Snow's slender waist. Feeling the softness of her body, Lu Yuan couldn't help but say that Chihiro Snow's body was simply perfect. It wasn't overly protruding, but it was perfectly proportioned. Chihiro Snow's figure was taller than Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan hugged Chihiro Snow, his forehead just happened to be facing Chihiro Snow's red lips. This was the first time Lu Yuan hugged Chihiro Snow, but he had to say, it felt very good. At the moment when he hugged Chihiro Snow, he felt as if he was hugging the whole world. The only thing he was dissatisfied with was that he was still too short. I really want to grow taller faster, Lu Yuan crazily shouted in his heart. The two of them hugged quietly. Everything around them seemed to have fallen into silence. After a long time, Lu Yuan finally let go of Chihiro Snow, but his hands were still on her waist. Is the hug comfortable? Chihiro Snow looked down at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan raised his head. Looking at Chihiro Snow's beautiful face, a surge of impulse welled up in his heart. He didn't know why, but he hated it when others looked down on him, even if the person in front of him was the person he yearned for day and night. It's very comfortable. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Suddenly, his eyes turned, and he said, "Look, what's that?" Lu Yuan's expression was very shocked. Chihiro Snow curiously turned around. There's nothing. Chihiro Snow didn't see anything. Puzzled, she turned around. Chihiro Snow had just turned around when a black shadow sealed her red lips. Chihiro Snow's eyes widened in shock. She only felt that her mind was blank. Lu Yuan's voice traveled into her ears. I'll give you a stamp. From now on, you're mine. After saying that, he turned around and used the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions to escape without a trace. By the time Chihiro Snow reacted, Lu Yuan's figure had already scurried out of the plum garden. Little hooligan, lecher. In a moment of carelessness, she was taken advantage of by Lu Yuan. Chihiro Snow was so angry that she stomped her feet. However, Lu Yuan had already escaped. She could only vent her anger to the air. After venting her anger, Chihiro Snow touched her red lips. Despicable little bastard. Her tone was already very gentle, with a hint of shyness. But this feeling doesn't seem bad. A smile appeared on Chen Runshue's beautiful face. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. Chapter 65. On the other side, Lu Yuan quickly used the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions to escape before Chihiro Snow could react. Otherwise, if he was caught by Chihiro Snow, he would definitely be beaten up. Running away after taking advantage was the truth. However, he had finally done something that he had always wanted to do. Lu Yuan was exceptionally happy. Chihiro Snow's red lips felt really good. They were soft and sticky with a hint of sweetness. This made Lu Yuan decide that he must taste them a few more times in the future. After sneaking an attack on Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan was very happy. He hummed a song as he walked towards the island in the middle of the lake. Today, Chihiro Snow's mission had awakened him. The martial soul palace's net had already been spread. It would be very dangerous for her to go to the Heaven Do Empire alone. Although she was very successful in the original work, she only revealed a flaw in the end because she was too anxious to close the net. However, with him around in this life, there was no telling what kind of accident would happen. Therefore, he needed to become stronger as soon as possible so that he could be of help when the time came. He decided that when he returned, he would ask Bibidon to arrange for his second soul ring. Island in the middle of the lake. Lu Yuan stepped lightly on the small boat. His body rose up and landed lightly on the ground. Ever since he sparred with Chihiro Snow every day, his mastery of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions had undoubtedly deepened. Lu Yuan's arrival was undoubtedly very coincidental. Bibidon and Hulena were both present. Abuchi, you're back. Bibidon smiled slightly. You're back, junior brother. Hulena swayed her slender waist and took a few steps forward to Lu Yuan's side. Teacher, senior sister. Lu Yuan first bowed to Bibidon, then smiled at Hulena. Hulena grabbed Lu Yuan's arm and dragged him inside. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Abuchi, you broke through? Due to her busy schedule, she had not seen Lu Yuan for 3 days. She did not expect that when they met again, Lu Yuan had already broken through level 20. Before Lu Yuan could answer, Hulena had already said, "Hihi, junior brother had already broken through 3 days ago, but I didn't have time to tell you." Well, not bad. Bibidon nodded. Abuchi, What kind of soul beast are you looking for? Do you want me to give you some pointers? Bibidon's voice rang out. He was undoubtedly very fond of this disciple of his who had such amazing talent. There's no need for that, teacher. I've already planned it, Lu Yuan said. Oh. Then tell me about it. Although Lu Yuan refused, Bibidon was not angry because she knew that this little disciple of hers was actually quite opinionated. Lu Yuan listed out the few soul beasts that he had thought of. Very good. Bibidon nodded with satisfaction. Lu Yuan's idea was quite perfect. Even she would find it difficult to do better. In particular, the temperament of Lu Yuan's body made Bibidon a little absent-minded. Once upon a time, he was also very knowledgeable. Speaking of which, Lu Yuan's fists hit flesh when he fought, and his blood was boiling. But normally, he was a different scene. His face was cold, and he had an indifferent temperament. Perhaps it was because he had read a lot of books, but his body had a scholarly aura. And this scholarly aura made Bibidon absent-minded. Teacher. Seeing that Bibidon was lost in thought, Lu Yuan called out softly. Oh, where were we? Lu Yuan's voice woke Bibidon up from her thoughts. We were talking about the soul beasts that we wanted to hunt, Lu Yuan said. Ian, the soul beasts that you came up with are very good. They are all very suitable for you. Have you thought about how old they are? Bibidon asked. My first soul ring is already 800 years old. I want to find a 1,000-year soul ring for my second soul ring. A 1,000-year soul ring? That's doable. Bibidon nodded. With Lu Yuan's golden dragon's powerful physique, obtaining a 1,000-year second soul ring was not difficult. Then it's settled. Tomorrow, I'll let Elder Ju bring you to hunt for a soul ring, Bibidon said. Thank you, teacher, Lu Yuan said. That night, after dinner, Lu Yuan returned to his room. Because he had to hunt for a soul ring tomorrow, in order to maintain a good amount of energy, he did not continue to cultivate. Instead, he chose to sleep. Lu Yuan was lying on the bed, thinking about tomorrow's matters. Suddenly, his body felt heavy, and a head moved in front of him. A musky smell entered the tip of Lu Yuan's nose, and his thoughts were interrupted. In the blink of an eye, he discovered that Helena was lying beside him. Her beautiful face was very close, and her pair of beautiful eyes were staring straight at him. Senior sister, why aren't you sleeping? Why are you so close? Lu Yuan said while looking at Helena. Why, junior brother, could it be that senior sister can't get close? Saying that, she moved her head closer, and her breath hit his face. Ah, you can. Lu Yuan only felt a cold sweat on his forehead. Smelling Helena's sweet smell, his body actually had a trace of abnormality. This seductive woman was originally very tempting, and now that half of her body was lying on top of him, even with his self-control, he could not help but feel a little restless. Muttering Chihiro Snow's name in his heart, Lu Yuan forcibly suppressed the desire in his heart. Hee. Looking at Lu Yuan's somewhat scorching eyes, Helena secretly laughed. She thought that this junior brother of hers was really a block of wood. Junior brother, you seem to have the smell of a woman on your body today. Helena wrinkled her jade nose and moved closer again. No. Lu Yuan shook his head. Is there really nothing? Helena's beautiful eyebrows raised, and said, Junior brother, don't lie to senior sister, otherwise, senior sister will punish you. Saying that, she gently blew a breath, and pressed most of her body on top of Lu Yuan, causing Lu Yuan's body to involuntarily tremble. Seeing Lu Yuan's eyes slowly become scorching, Helena smiled with satisfaction. She liked to tease this cold junior brother. If Lu Yuan knew Helena's thoughts, he would definitely be shocked, because he also liked to tease Chihiro Snow. Senior sister, don't play with fire. Lu Yuan lowered his voice. Hee, what, junior brother, what do you want to do? Helena giggled. Seeing Helena's seductive red lips close to his, Lu Yuan's head heated up, and he really wanted to pounce on her. At the crucial moment, a beautiful figure appeared in Lu Yuan's mind. Lu Yuan's mind trembled, and the clear breath scripture automatically activated, extinguishing the scorching heat in his heart. His eyes returned to calmness, and Lu Yuan pushed Helena's head away. His body moved to the side, and he pulled the blanket over Helena, firmly wrapping her up. Tapping Helena's head, Lu Yuan said, "Senior sister, you should sleep early, it's already late." As he spoke, he crossed his legs and began to meditate. There was no other way, with Helena constantly tempting him, he could only choose to meditate. Helena, who was wrapped in the blanket, lightly snorted, and looked at Lu Yuan, who was cultivating at the side, with a hint of resentment in her beautiful eyes. "I don't believe that my seduction has no effect on you." Chapter 66. The next day, a purple light appeared. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, and a beautiful face appeared in front of him. Lu Yuan was shocked. He looked carefully, and it turned out to be Helena. Helena's beautiful eyes stared straight at him, making Lu Yuan's hair stand on end. "Senior sister, what's wrong?" Lu Yuan asked carefully. "Abuchi, do you think senior sister is not beautiful?" "What?" Lu Yuan was a little confused. He didn't know what Helena meant, so he could only say, "Senior sister is very beautiful." "Do you really think senior sister is beautiful?" Helena asked. Lu Yuan nodded and said, "Of course senior sister is very beautiful." Lu Yuan said sincerely. He had to admit that Helena was indeed very beautiful. "Then why didn't my seduction have any effect on you?" Helena's beautiful big eyes looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan paused and said, "It's not that it didn't have any effect. It's just that my spiritual power is stronger," Lu Yuan said. In fact, Helena's seduction was really strong. If he didn't have Chihiro Snow in his heart, he might not be able to hold on. If it wasn't for the clear Chi scripture that could calm his mind, he was really afraid that he would make a mistake and regret it forever. "Really?" Helena asked. Lu Yuan nodded firmly and said, "Senior sister, in fact, your seduction ability is really strong. It's just that my spiritual power is different from ordinary people since I was young. Moreover, I was almost seduced by you yesterday." Lu Yuan seemed to see that Helena's mood was a little bad, so he quickly said. As if recalling Lu Yuan's embarrassed appearance yesterday, Helena laughed, stood up, and said with a smile, "Wash up well. We'll be leaving soon." Lu Yuan nodded, stood up, and prepared to wash up. The sun rose from the east, and the blazing sun began to emit its own light. The golden sun shone on the ground as Lu Yuan and Helena walked towards the pontiff's palace. Bibidon was standing outside the pontiff's palace, and there were two figures standing beside her. One of them was a black shadow, while the other was dressed in a chrysanthemum-colored robe. They were Bibidon's subordinates, the chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo. Bibidon revealed a faint smile when he saw Lu Yuan and Yi Shiwen arrive. She turned to the Jew Douluo and said, "Yu Guan, I'll leave Abuchi's soul ring to you." The Jew Douluo lowered his head slightly and said, "Don't worry, Your Holiness. Yu Guan will definitely obtain the best soul ring for Sir Yuan." Bibidon nodded in response. She was quite pleased with the chrysanthemum Douluo's abilities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become her most powerful general. "Abuchi, you will follow the Jew Douluo this time, and you must listen to his instructions along the way. Do you understand?" Bibidon said in a serious tone. Lu Yuan nodded and said, "I understand." "Okay." Bibidon scanned her surroundings and said, "Then the two of you can set off now. Go and come back as soon as possible." "Yes, teacher." "Yes, Your Holiness." A horse-drawn carriage was slowly moving along the road outside Martial Spirit City. "Elder Jew, where are we going to obtain soul rings?" Lu Yuan turned around and asked as he looked in the direction the carriage was moving in. This didn't seem to be the road to the Great Star-Do Forest. "This is the road to the Martial Spirit Forest." The Jew Douluo laughed. In fact, Lu Yuan had become very familiar with the Jew Douluo and Gui Douluo over the past year. The two of them were very loyal to Bibidon, and Lu Yuan was naturally treated with respect by the two of them since he was Bibidon's disciple. The Martial Spirit Forest. This seems to be one of the 3 advanced forests that the Martial Soul Palace is in charge of. Lu Yuan wasn't surprised to hear that they were going to the Martial Spirit Forest. This was because he had some understanding of this place. The Martial Soul Palace was in charge of 3 advanced soul beast forests. They were the martial spirit forest, the scarlet thorn forest, and the dense fog forest. These three forests each had their own characteristics. The martial spirit forest had the most types of soul beasts, and it was the most complete. There were soul beasts of all types, but there were fewer high-level soul beasts compared to the other two forests. There were almost no high-level soul beasts above 50,000 years old. The scarlet thorn forest was the exact opposite. As it was close to the north, the climate was cold, and there were fewer types of soul beasts. Most of them were ice-type soul beasts, and some were cold-resistant. There were very few plant-type soul beasts, but there were many high-level soul beasts. The reason why it was called the scarlet thorn forest was because there were many cold-resistant scarlet thorns. The dense fog forest was the most mysterious of the three. It had the rarest spiritual-type soul beasts. Furthermore, the soul beasts in the dense fog forest were relatively ancient, and there were many soul beasts that had been passed down from ancient times. There were probably the most high-level soul beasts in the three advanced soul beast forests, and there might even be a 100,000-year soul beast. Of course, it was also the most dangerous forest. Lu Yuan had just reached rank 20, and this time, he wanted to find a 1,000-year defense-type soul beast. The martial spirit forest was the most suitable for him, because there were many types of soul beasts there. Furthermore, there was a lack of high-level soul beasts. With the protection of the Douluo, the threat wasn't great, and it would be much easier to find a suitable soul ring. The martial spirit forest wasn't far from martial spirit city, and it would take at most a day to reach by carriage. Sitting in the carriage, the Douluo looked at Lu Yuan with a smile, causing Lu Yuan's scalp to go numb. The feeling of being stared at by a gay man was definitely not good. The Douluo didn't have any other flaws, but he looked a little bewitching. For a straight man like Lu Yuan, this was really hard to accept sometimes. Thus, Lu Yuan decided to just close his eyes and rest. The sight of the chrysanthemum Douluo triggered some memories in Lu Yuan's mind. For example, the Douluo's martial soul was the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, and there was a place that happened to have this immortal herb, the Icefire Yin-Yang Well. Sooner or later, he would go there and plunder it. However, he wasn't very familiar with many of the immortal herbs there, but it didn't matter. He remembered that the Douluo had recognized these immortal herbs in the original novel, and perhaps there were records of them. It seemed like he could find an opportunity to take a look. He had always had a thought in his mind. If he could take the Icefire Yin-Yang Well in one fell swoop, then would Shrek 7 monsters still be able to grow so smoothly? Furthermore, these immortal herbs were absolute treasures in the Martial Soul Palace, and many people could use them, such as Chihiro Snow and Hulena. As for the others, that had nothing to do with Lu Yuan. If he could obtain the immortal herbs in the Icefire Yin-Yang Well, not to mention Chihiro Snow, Hulena, who was a member of the Golden Generation, could also become a god after being enhanced by the immortal herbs. After all, apart from Tang San, the other members of Shrek 7 monsters were only on the same level as Hulena in the original novel. Since they could become gods, there was no reason that Hulena couldn't. In addition to Bibidon and Chihiro Snow, these three people that he cared about the most in the Martial Soul Palace could also become gods. They wouldn't age or die, and they would be together forever. Wouldn't that be perfect? Wouldn't that be great? Chapter 67. Fragrant, very fragrant. Lu Yuan nodded vigorously, expressing that this idea was very nice. All along, he had been most worried about Hulena, because this senior apprentice sister had treated him really well. Bibidon and Chihiro Snow were people who were destined to become gods, and they had already started to come into contact with gods. Although he was currently only at level 20, he was never worried that he wouldn't be able to become a god. Unless those gods' brains were damaged, he definitely wouldn't lack the opportunity to take the god level test. However, Hulena might not be so. Although her talent was passable, she was still some distance away from taking the 9 god level tests. If she couldn't become a god, she would eventually become a pile of dirt. However, if there were immortal herbs to increase her talent, there was a chance that she could become a god. However, there was no need to rush this, because that fool Dugu Bo didn't even recognize those immortal herbs, so he didn't dare to touch them. He just needed to harvest those immortal herbs before Tang San reached the Icefire Yin-Yang well. He really wanted to see what kind of expression Tang San would have when he finally found the Icefire Yin-Yang well, but all the immortal herbs were harvested, leaving behind a mess. Lu Yuan's thoughts spun, and he was actually looking forward to it. The carriage continued to move forward. The next morning, after a day of travel and a night's rest, Lu Yuan and Douluo Bo began their journey before the sun rose. Finally, when the sun rose, they arrived at the Martial Spirit Forest. The Martial Spirit Forest was one of the 3 high-level soul beast forests under the Martial Spirit Palace. Although it wasn't completely confined like the low-level soul beast forests, the Martial Spirit Palace would set up checkpoints on every path that led to the Martial Spirit Forest. Only those who had the Martial Spirit Palace's token would be allowed to pass through. Furthermore, this token had to be at least a third-class token or above. This was because these advanced soul beast forests were different from ordinary soul beast forests. Although they were natural forests, the Martial Soul Palace had spent a lot of effort to open them up. Many of the soul beasts in these forests were captured by the Martial Soul Palace from other places, and they had a history of several thousand years. It could be said that the Martial Soul Palace's hard work was inseparable from the prosperity of the 3 soul beast forests. What they had worked hard for couldn't possibly be given to someone else for free. After all, no one was a saint. Lu Yuan and the Douluo were both important figures in the Martial Soul Palace, and the Douluo was an elder, so they were naturally able to pass through the checkpoint with ease before entering the forest. Compared to the soul-hunting forest that Lu Yuan had been to before, this Martial Soul Forest was much more powerful. After all, one only had low-tier soul beasts, while the other had high-tier soul beasts. The vegetation in Martial Soul Forest was very lush, and there was no lack of trees that were dozens of meters tall. 10-year and 100-year soul beasts could be seen everywhere. It was truly worthy of being called a high-ranked soul beast forest. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the Great Douluo Forest. After all, the Great Douluo Forest was the largest soul beast forest on the continent. However, it wasn't much worse than the Setting Sun Forest. Lu Yuan and the Douluo proceeded forward. 100-year soul beasts weren't Lu Yuan's cup of tea. Only 1,000-year soul beasts of a higher rank were Lu Yuan's target. With the Douluo's might, Lu Yuan's progress was very smooth. No soul beast was foolish enough to come out and seek death. After all, soul beasts were generally more sensitive to danger than humans. Lu Yuan wanted to find defense-type soul beasts. Turtle-type soul beasts were known for their defensive abilities. Turtle-type soul beasts usually lived near water. Even if there wasn't any water, they would still prefer to stay in moist places like swamps. Therefore, Lu Yuan chose to move forward in areas that were more moist. Don't ask Lu Yuan how he knew where the moist areas were. If you wanted to ask, you should ask Zhu Guan, because he was the one who had pointed the way. A titled Douluo was indeed a titled Douluo. He actually managed to find a river in this vast forest. The sound of flowing water entered his ears. Lu Yuan knew that they had found the right place. He walked towards the source of the sound, and a wide river came into view. There were many soul beasts crawling around beside the river. Some soul beasts were unusually arrogant. They were actually walking sideways. There was a group of crabs the size of wash basins. They were waving their large pincers and flaunting their might. Lu Yuan decided that they would be his lunch today. This was a 10-year armored crab. It was covered in a layer of black armor, and its defensive power was very strong. If it were a 1,000-year armored crab, it would be a good choice for a defense-type soul master. Of course, Lu Yuan didn't think much of it. Other than its armor, the taste of the armored crab's meat was superb. It was incomparably delicious. It didn't need much seasoning. Just a sprinkle of salt was enough to make it a rare delicacy. Lu Yuan, who had always loved good food, naturally couldn't refuse this. Of course, it was more important to find a suitable soul ring for him now. There were a few turtle-type soul beasts crawling along the riverbank. They were brown all over, and they weren't small in size. They were slowly crawling along the riverbank. They were 100-year rock turtles, which were very suitable for Earth-type soul masters. They had a special ability called rock transformation, which allowed them to transform the surface of their bodies into rock armor. The rock turtle could be considered to be a high-grade soul beast, but Lu Yuan naturally didn't care about it. What he pursued was at least a top-grade soul beast, or even a transcendent soul beast. He strived for the best for every soul ring he had. As they followed the river upstream, the water surface was narrow and the water level was low. Relatively speaking, the quality and rank of the soul beasts here were also relatively low. The upstream had more water, wider water, and abundant water plants. The quality and age of the soul beasts here were also relatively higher. This was because soul beasts were much stricter about rank and had a stronger sense of territory than humans. In the world of soul beasts, it was very rare for low-grade soul beasts to trespass into the territory of high-grade soul beasts. This was because their lives could be threatened. As they followed the river upstream, the ranks of the soul beasts became higher and higher. There was even a 1,200-year black-scaled black tortoise that appeared. Lu Yuan was almost tempted. However, Lu Yuan still asked the Douluo to remember its aura in the end. Black-scaled black tortoises were rare, but 1,200 years was still too low. According to his plan, it would be best for his second soul ring to be at least 2,000 years old. Therefore, even though black-scaled black tortoises were very rare, he decided to give up on them for now. If he couldn't find a better one, it wouldn't be a bad idea to come back and absorb it. After advancing another 1,000 meters, they were already at a place where 1,000-year soul beasts frequently appeared. The 100-year soul beasts that occasionally appeared had extraordinary bloodlines. They were existences that could compete with 1,000-year soul beasts. There were quite a few turtle-type soul beasts here, and every single one of them was of decent quality. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. He saw a golden figure in a cave. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Gold-scaled imperial dragon turtle." Chapter 68. It was no wonder that Lu Yuan was shocked. The golden-armored dragon tortoise was simply too extraordinary. The golden-armored dragon tortoise was the king of tortoises. It was an extremely rare super soul beast. It was also one of the only two super soul beasts among tortoise-type soul beasts. The other was the black tortoise, which was a super soul beast. In addition to its strong defense, it was also good at water-type energy attacks. It could both attack and defend, which was why it stood among the super soul beasts. In addition to its strong defense, the golden-armored dragon tortoise also had extraordinary attack power. This attack power came from the physical strength of the golden-armored dragon tortoise. The golden-armored dragon tortoise was also a gold-type soul beast. This could be seen from its golden body. At the same time, it also had the bloodline of the dragon race. According to ancient records, the origin of the golden-armored dragon tortoise's dragon bloodline was extraordinary. On the Douluo continent, the common ancestor of all soul beasts was the dragon god. The dragon god had disappeared long ago. Now, the strongest dragon bloodlines were the dragon god's two avatars, the Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King. Under these two dragon kings were the 9 dragon kings created by the dragon god himself. They were the Golden Dragon, Mountain Dragon King, Fire Dragon King, Ice Dragon King, Earth Dragon King, Wind Dragon King of Light, Darkness Dragon King, and Space Dragon King. They all inherited one of the dragon god's powers. The Mountain Dragon King was the uncrowned king. Due to his special achievements, he was known as the leader of the 9 dragon kings. However, in terms of strength, there was no doubt that the Golden Dragon was the most powerful of the 9 dragon kings. The Golden Dragon and the Golden Dragon King were a little similar. Its strongest point was its physical strength. In fact, the Golden Dragon King's strength was the combination of the Golden Dragon and the Mountain Dragon King, while the Silver Dragon King's strength came from the combination of the other 7 dragon kings. The Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King were actually similar. One controlled the physical strength of the dragon god, while the other controlled the elemental strength of the dragon god. However, it wasn't hard to see that the Golden Dragon King was able to stand toe-to-toe with the Silver Dragon King, which was a combination of the Golden Dragon King and the Mountain Dragon King. Clearly, The Golden Dragon King and the Mountain Dragon King were far more powerful than the other 7 Dragon Kings. At their peak, the 9 Great Dragon Kings were equivalent to first-tier gods. Among them, the Golden Dragon was undoubtedly infinitely close to the realm of God King. However, because the Golden Dragon was so powerful, he might have already died in the War of the Divine World. Lu Yuan did not know whether the Golden Dragon was dead or alive. It was most likely dead. Lu Yuan knew that the golden armored dragon turtle and the golden dragon had some connection. The golden armored dragon tortoise had a thin golden dragon bloodline. Even though this bloodline was extremely thin, it still belonged to the strongest first-tier divine golden dragon bloodline. Therefore, this gave the golden armored dragon tortoise a very powerful physical strength. Among the soul beasts, the golden armored dragon tortoise was one of the strongest. But due to the rarity of the golden dragon tortoises and their inability to reproduce, and the fact that they were constantly hunted down by human soul masters due to the high quality of their soul rings, the golden dragon tortoises went extinct 1,000 years ago. Who would have thought that they'd see one here today? It was exactly because of this that Lu Yuan had never considered the golden armored dragon tortoise as his second soul ring. However, it was undoubtedly the case that this golden armored dragon tortoise was tailor-made for Lu Yuan. It was more suitable for Lu Yuan than the Xuanwu tortoise as they were both gold-type soul beasts. Coincidentally, they also had similar bloodlines. The golden dragon martial soul came from the golden dragon king, so it was indeed similar to the golden dragon bloodline. Elder Ju, do you see that golden tortoise? Lu Yuan asked. The Ju Douluo nodded before turning to the golden armored dragon tortoise. I see it. Do you want to use that tortoise as your soul ring? Lu Yuan nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you, Elder Ju. The Ju Douluo smiled. No problem. Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief as he watched the Ju Douluo advance. He couldn't tell how old the golden armored dragon tortoise was from a rough look, but it was less than 3 meters long, so it should be less than 5,000 years old. The age of a golden armored dragon tortoise was determined by its length. A 10,000-year golden armored dragon tortoise should be around 4 meters long. Anything below 4 meters was in the 1,000-year range. A 3-meter golden armored dragon tortoise was around 5,000 years old, while the one in front of him was less than 3 meters long. This meant that it was around 4,000 years old at most. This was acceptable to Lu Yuan. A 4,000-year-old golden dragon tortoise's true fighting strength wasn't something an ordinary 10,000-year soul beast could compare to. Perhaps even a soul emperor wouldn't be able to deal with it. This was because its bloodline was too extraordinary, and its defense was shockingly strong. A soul emperor wouldn't necessarily be able to injure it. However, the Ju Douluo was a titled Douluo, and a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. Even a 10,000-year golden armored dragon tortoise wouldn't be a match for the Ju Douluo, let alone a 1,000-year golden armored dragon tortoise. However, if the golden armored dragon tortoise was more than 50,000 years old, the Ju Douluo would have to flee. However, there were no IFS. Therefore, it was still a little easy for the Ju Douluo to deal with a 1,000-year golden armored dragon tortoise. Not long after, the Ju Douluo returned with the golden armored dragon tortoise. The golden armored dragon tortoise had been severely injured by the Ju Douluo. Its armor was cracked, and there were cuts all over it. They were probably caused by the petals of the singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum. There was golden red blood all over its body, and some of its internal organs could be seen through the cracks. There was no doubt that the golden armored dragon tortoise was severely injured, and was not far from death. However, the golden armored dragon tortoise still had a ferocious expression on its face. Its huge, menacing mouth was lined with sharp fangs, and its green eyes were filled with resentment. Lu Yuan sighed when he saw the state of the golden armored dragon tortoise. He didn't sympathize with it, but he sighed at the way of the world. Survival of the fittest. No matter the world, no matter the race, the law of the jungle was the eternal theme. If one didn't want to be bullied or even lose one's life, one had to become stronger. Hua Yuhao sized up the golden armored dragon tortoise. This golden armored dragon tortoise was about 2.5 meters tall, and it was around 3,500 years old. He could give it a try. Yuan, are you really going to absorb this soul beast's soul ring? I've never seen such a troublesome 1,000-year soul beast before. It's almost as strong as a titan giant ape of the same rank. It's going to take quite a bit of effort to deal with it, and it's going to be very oppressive. Can you handle it? The Jew Douluo asked. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded and said, this golden-armored dragon tortoise can only be found by chance. To me, it is even more precious than the titan giant ape, so I would like to give it a try. I hope Elder Jew can protect me. Seeing how determined Lu Yuan was, the Jew Douluo waved his hand and said, all right, but if you feel that you can't handle it, just give up. Don't force yourself. It's fine even if it's a waste. We can find another one. It's fine as long as you're fine. Yes. I got it. Thank you, Elder Jew. Lu Yuan nodded in acknowledgement. After that, he slowly walked in front of the golden-armored dragon tortoise. Chapter 69. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was slowly walking in front of it, the golden-armored dragon tortoise had a ferocious expression as it stared at Lu Yuan. Generally speaking, soul beasts would have a certain level of intelligence after 10,000 years, but for super soul beasts, they could develop intelligence at 1,000 years. This was the privilege of super soul beasts. The golden-armored dragon tortoise had a thin golden dragon bloodline, and its bloodline was quite noble. Therefore, with its 3,500 years of cultivation, it already had the intelligence of a 10,000-year soul beast. Although it couldn't speak yet, it could understand some basic things. It knew that the reason why the old man wanted to kill it was to become a soul ring for this brat in front of it, so the golden-armored dragon tortoise was especially resentful towards Lu Yuan. Looking at the golden-armored dragon tortoise's ferocious expression and the resentment in its eyes, Lu Yuan didn't care. It was natural for soul masters to hunt soul beasts, so he didn't have any psychological burden. Soon, Lu Yuan walked to a meter in front of the golden-armored dragon tortoise and stopped. Golden light shone on his body, and the golden dragon martial soul instantly completed the possession. A dragon's might that belonged to the golden dragon spread out. The dragon's might was like a prison, and a strong pressure swept out. This wasn't because of how strong Lu Yuan's soul power was, but because of the innate power of his martial soul. Feeling the pressure from Lu Yuan's body, the golden-armored dragon tortoise, whose expression was originally ferocious and resentful, suddenly trembled. Its body actually bent a little, and the ferocious look in its small eyes disappeared. What welcomed it was great joy and trembling. Without noticing the golden-armored dragon tortoise's expression, Lu Yuan took out the Emperor Dragon Shocks the World from his ring and pierced through the golden-armored dragon tortoise's throat. A purple soul ring rose from the golden-armored dragon tortoise's body. This soul ring was abnormally condensed and emitted a dazzling purple light. Lu Yuan sat down cross-legged and waved his hand. The purple soul ring was placed on top of Lu Yuan's head, and rich and powerful energy flowed in from the Baihui acupoint on the top of his head. The chrysanthemum Douluo perked up when he saw that Lu Yuan had started to absorb the soul rings. He scanned his surroundings and stood guard for Lu Yuan. The power of the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise was very strong and overbearing. It directly entered Lu Yuan's body. The power was so great that even with Lu Yuan's physique, he could barely withstand it. Lu Yuan felt a stabbing pain all over his body. He knew that this was because the impact of the energy was too fierce, so his meridians were unable to withstand it. Fortunately, his body was tyrannical, and his meridians were tough enough. Although the pressure of the energy was great, he was still able to withstand it. Lu Yuan circulated the clear air scripture, and the soul force within his body continued to surge. After absorbing the demonic ape, he knew that the resentment left behind by the soul beast before its death was even more difficult to deal with than the energy of the soul ring itself. That was the greatest test for a soul master. However, Lu Yuan wasn't afraid. The clear air scripture had the effect of purifying evil and calming the mind. Therefore, even though the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise was much stronger than the demonic ape, Lu Yuan was confident that he could subdue it. Under Lu Yuan's control, Lu Yuan's soul force rushed towards the energy of the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise. Unexpectedly, The process was abnormally smooth. It wasn't that the clear air scripture's power had increased greatly, but the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise's energy didn't have much resentment. Not only that, it even actively welcomed Lu Yuan's soul force. Under the effect of his soul force, it was quickly refined. This made Lu Yuan a little puzzled. How could the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise's eyes not have much resentment before it died? This made Lu Yuan a little confused because he didn't see the golden armor Imperial Dragon Tortoise's resentment disappear after sensing the aura of the golden dragon. Instead, it was replaced by extreme joy. Although the refinement was rather smooth, Lu Yuan was still vigilant and guarded his mind even more. Sea of Consciousness. After more than a year of cultivation, Lu Yuan's Sea of Consciousness had expanded a lot. In the depths of Lu Yuan's Sea of Consciousness, there were two figures. One of them was a simple and unadorned black spear. It quietly occupied the most central position and nothing dared to approach it. Far away from the simple and unadorned spear, there was a giant golden dragon. It was Lu Yuan's martial soul, the golden dragon. The Sea of Consciousness was a magical place. Lu Yuan didn't know what other people's Sea of Consciousness was like, but his was a golden ocean. In the sky above the ocean, there was a giant golden dragon flying. The golden dragon was very active. Every time Lu Yuan came here, it would always fly around. The god-slaying spear was very cold and aloof. It stayed in its own field and didn't go anywhere. After obtaining the god-slaying spear, this was the first time Lu Yuan came to his Sea of Consciousness. The Sea of Consciousness was empty. Only the roar of the golden dragon entered his ears. Suddenly, another golden figure appeared here. Looking at it, it was the golden armored dragon tortoise. Seeing the golden armored dragon tortoise, Lu Yuan's heart trembled. As expected, it still barged into his Sea of Consciousness. But Lu Yuan wasn't worried. With the god-slaying spear holding the fort, his Sea of Consciousness wasn't like before. Barging into his Sea of Consciousness could be said to be a dead end. The golden armored dragon tortoise seemed to be afraid of the god-slaying spear. It avoided the god-slaying spear and ran directly toward the golden dragon. Lu Yuan was about to counterattack, but he didn't expect the golden armored dragon tortoise to turn into a golden light and be swallowed by the golden dragon. What's going on? Before Lu Yuan made a move, the golden armored dragon tortoise's maneuvers stunned him. After swallowing the golden armored dragon tortoise, the golden dragon's aura increased significantly. The bright golden light shone even more brightly. The moment the golden armored dragon tortoise was swallowed by the golden dragon, in the outside world, Lu Yuan's soul ring absorption had reached the final stage. Golden light shone. Lu Yuan quickly circulated the clear chi scripture and absorbed all the energy of the golden armored dragon tortoise's soul ring. This energy was abnormally rich. He had a premonition that this time, he might rise a few ranks again. Opening his eyes, his golden pupils were full of majesty. The golden dragon's shadow behind him flapped its huge dragon wings. Two big soul rings, one yellow and one purple, slowly rippled under Lu Yuan's body. Rank 24. Feeling the soul power fluctuations in his body, Lu Yuan's face revealed a joyful expression. This time, he jumped 3 ranks in a row. But Lu Yuan still had doubts in his heart. This time, not only did the golden armored dragon tortoise not resist, it was unusually cooperative. It was really puzzling. Otherwise, the soul ring absorption this time would definitely be a huge challenge, and it wouldn't be as easy as it was now. Could it be related to my martial soul? After thinking about it, Lu Yuan still attributed all of this to his martial soul. This golden dragon martial soul was very mysterious. Lu Yuan didn't know how he could have the golden dragon martial soul. And the golden armored dragon tortoise had the golden dragon bloodline. Strictly speaking, it was indeed closely related to the golden dragon bloodline. Its puzzling actions were undoubtedly related to his golden dragon martial soul. This made Lu Yuan even more curious about the origin of his martial soul. Done absorbing? Seeing that Lu Yuan had finished absorbing, Douluo asked with a hint of surprise on his face. Lu Yuan nodded. Just as he was about to speak, his body suddenly trembled. A dense golden light wrapped Lu Yuan's body. The golden light dissipated, and a layer of golden armor appeared. Chapter 70. Golden light condensed on Lu Yuan's body, forming a layer of golden armor. The scales on this armor were distinct, and covered Lu Yuan's entire body and limbs. This armor wasn't a single piece of metal. Instead, it had a fleshy feel to it, as if it were a soft armor that had been carved onto the skin. It didn't affect Lu Yuan's movements at all. Instead, when this armor covered Lu Yuan's body, Lu Yuan felt that his strength, defense, and other attributes had increased significantly. What's this? The Jew Douluo's voice was filled with astonishment. Why does this armor look a little like the armor on that tortoise? Lu Yuan took a closer look. It was indeed very similar to the golden armor on the golden-armored dragon tortoise, but there were some slight differences. The golden-armored dragon tortoise's golden armor had a tortoise shell in the middle, and the golden armor was hexagonal in shape. However, there were some obvious changes on Lu Yuan's body. The tortoise shell was gone, and the hexagonal shape had become a rhombus, which was the same shape as the scales on Lu Yuan's body. The entire armor was golden, and radiated with dazzling golden light. There were even flowing cloud patterns on the golden armor, and it looked very mystical. Is this another external soul bone? Lu Yuan murmured softly. The chrysanthemum Douluo's elated voice rang out, Kid Yuan, if I'm not wrong, the armor you're wearing isn't simple at all. This should be the legendary external soul bone. You're in luck, kid. 1,000-year soul beast actually gave you an external soul bone. Lu Yuan was the Pope's disciple, and a prodigy of the martial soul palace. The Jew Douluo, who was loyal to the martial soul palace, was indeed very happy for him. Furthermore, an external soul bone was different from a normal soul bone. Once an external soul bone was completely fused, it couldn't be taken away. Lu Yuan's armor had clearly changed according to Lu Yuan's bloodline, which meant that this external soul bone had already fused perfectly with Lu Yuan. At this point, it couldn't be taken away. As such, even though the chrysanthemum Douluo was a little envious of Lu Yuan for obtaining such a rare external soul bone, he didn't harbor any ill intentions. In contrast to the Jew Douluo's elation, Lu Yuan was also a little stunned. He had only killed 2 soul beasts, and both of them had dropped external soul bones. Could it be that he had the ability to have a 100% chance of dropping external soul bones? Actually, this wasn't hard to explain. When Lu Yuan calmed down, with his knowledge, he was able to clearly understand the knack behind this. Obtaining the demonic ape's left palm bone for the first time was indeed a pleasant surprise. His luck was indeed off the charts. However, the appearance of the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle's golden armor wasn't luck. From a certain point of view, it was inevitable. This had something to do with the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle's willingness. This was because the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle had voluntarily allowed itself to be absorbed by Lu Yuan. Even though Lu Yuan didn't understand why the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle would do this, if a soul beast was 100% willing to be absorbed by a soul master, there was almost a 100% chance of dropping a soul bone. The golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle was in such a situation. It had practically given its everything to Lu Yuan without any reservations. Under such circumstances, it wasn't strange for it to drop a soul bone. However, the soul bone that dropped was a little special. It was actually the most precious external soul bone. To be honest, if the golden Imperial Dragon Tortoise dropped a soul bone like the left arm bone or right arm bone, then even if it came from a super soul beast like the golden Imperial Dragon Tortoise, in Lu Yuan's eyes, it might not be enough. After all, it was only 1,000 years old. However, an external soul bone was different. This thing could continuously improve and was a very good thing. Moreover, this external soul bone of the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle seemed to be quite compatible with Lu Yuan. The fusion speed was extremely fast. After absorbing the soul ring, the external soul bone had already fused perfectly. Back then, it took Lu Yuan a long time to completely fuse with the heaven-raising palm bone. To Lu Yuan, this golden armor external soul bone was much more useful than the heaven-raising palm bone. With this thing, Lu Yuan could be reckless in the future. No one of the same rank could break through his defense. Even if it was a soul elder who was one rank higher, if they didn't have a very powerful offensive skill, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Good stuff. Touching the golden armor on his body, Lu Yuan smiled. I'll call you the Golden Dragon Armor. Lu Yuan had gained a lot from this trip to the martial soul forest. It could be said that he had gained a lot because other than this extremely precious golden dragon armor, his second soul skill was also very useful. His second soul skill was called the Golden Dragon War Body. The effect of the Golden Dragon War Body was very simple. It increased his defense by 200% and was immune to all control-type skills, such as binding, immobilizing, freezing, and so on. It increased his defense by 2 times and made him immune to control-type skills. This soul skill could be said to be a top-grade item. With this soul skill, he could be said to be the nightmare of all control-type soul masters. A control-type soul master restrains an assault-type soul master. This law would not apply to him at all. The soul skill effect of this golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle was much better than the heaven-raising demon ape. This was the charm of a super soul beast. Of course, it couldn't be separated from the strength of the golden dragon. The biggest reason was still because of the compatibility. It was precisely because of the compatibility that when the two were combined, such a powerful force could erupt. Coupled with the golden dragon armor, there were 2 layers of defense. Moreover, in addition to the enhancement, the golden dragon armor seemed to have the effect of being immune to negative conditions, such as poison, burns, and so on. With these 2 added together, Lu Yuan could be said to be invincible among those of the same rank. Lu Yuan, who was wearing the golden dragon armor, was like a human-shaped soul beast. Any casual charge had a huge force. This was because in addition to Lu Yuan's own strength, the set of external soul bones on his body didn't seem to be light either. According to Lu Yuan's estimation, this set of golden dragon armor was probably no less than 1,000 kilograms. If it was in the past, Lu Yuan would be able to bear this weight, but it would definitely be a little strenuous. But now, with the support of the golden armor Imperial Dragon Turtle Soul Ring and the huge increase brought by the golden dragon armor, Lu Yuan's normal strength had reached 2,500 kilograms. If he released his martial soul, it would probably be 7,000 to 8,000 kilograms. He could be said to be a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. Against ordinary soul elders, Lu Yuan would probably be able to deal with them without using any soul skills. As for the level of a soul grandmaster, there was no need to mention it anymore. He was invincible. He was now certain that his strength had completely surpassed Helena's. Although Helena was currently rank 33, Lu Yuan was sure that if the 2 of them were to fight, he would definitely be the winner. As for Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan still wasn't confident because Chihiro Snow was someone who could fight above her rank. Furthermore, she was already a high-level soul ancestor. In addition, she had the angel void form that was immune to physical attacks and had 50% of energy attacks. Lu Yuan indeed didn't have much confidence. But no matter what, the gap between him and Chihiro Snow had narrowed. Chapter 71. Lu Yuan was very satisfied with the golden armored dragon tortoise's soul ring. Hence, he tidied himself up and started to head back. It was still the same carriage that brought Lu Yuan and the Douluo back to the martial soul palace. At this moment, a beautiful figure stood at the entrance of the plum garden in the martial soul palace for a long time. Then, she floated away. When Lu Yuan and the Douluo returned to the martial soul palace, it was already the morning of the 2nd day. It still took them more than a day. When Lu Yuan and the Douluo returned, Bibidon was already waiting at the entrance of the pontiff's palace with Helena. Looking at Bibidon's appearance, it seemed like she had just sent off someone important. When she saw Lu Yuan and the Douluo return, Bibidon's indifferent and conflicted face revealed a smile. "Your Holiness, teacher." Both of them bowed to Bibidon. "You found your second soul ring? What soul beast is it? Tell me about it." Bibidon's voice was crisp and clear. There was a trace of gentleness in her dignified aura. "Teacher, my second soul ring is a golden armored dragon tortoise." "Golden armored dragon tortoise?" Bibidon's face revealed a trace of surprise. Didn't this soul beast disappear a long time ago? Unlike the Douluo who directly used the golden-armored dragon tortoise as a substitute, Bibidon undoubtedly recognized the golden-armored dragon tortoise. From a certain perspective, Bibidon was truly knowledgeable. Furthermore, due to her great strength, she knew more secrets than Yu Xiaogang, who was known as a master. Bibidon was the first person in history to solve the problem of twin martial spirits. Her talent could be said to be top-notch. If it wasn't for Tang San repeatedly cheating in the original work, she would be the true #1 genius of the continent. Even Chihiro Snow couldn't compare to her, because Chihiro Snow's exceptional talent came from Bibidon. Chihiro Snow's father, Chihiro Disease, wasn't very talented. He was a rank 95 transcendent Douluo with a powerful martial soul like the six-winged angel, but he was actually severely injured by Tang Hao, who had just become a titled Douluo. He was indeed a piece of trash. If it had been him, he would have been able to kill Tang Hao with a single slap since he had the advantage in soul power. Lu Yuan had absolute confidence that he was invincible among those of the same level, not to mention those of a lower level. Basically, a single slap was all it would take. And Bibidon was the most powerful pope in the history of the martial soul palace. Her reputation wasn't undeserved. She had the strength. She had a beautiful face that could turn all living things upside down. She also had an absolute strength that far exceeded her peers and a high status. Such a proud woman was rare in the Douluo continent since ancient times. Lu Yuan had always felt that Grandmaster really wasn't worthy of Bibidon. The so-called knowledge that he was so proud of might be useful to low-level soul masters, but it really wasn't very useful to high-level soul masters. Furthermore, Grandmaster's vision wasn't broad enough. Perhaps it had something to do with his own strength. Back then, Chihiro Disease didn't agree to the relationship between Bibidon and Grandmaster no matter what. He even raped Bibidon. On one hand, it might be that Chihiro Disease himself had such thoughts. He was originally a pervert. On the other hand, it might be that he really felt that Grandmaster wasn't worthy of Bibidon at all. After all, dragons don't coexist with snakes. Bibidon was a phoenix that roamed the 9 heavens, while Grandmaster was just a toad on the ground. Oh no, he should be a pig. The gap between them could be imagined. Sometimes, one had to admit that it made sense to be well-matched in social status. Lu Yuan's thoughts turned. He didn't have any prejudice against Grandmaster because Grandmaster did have a unique understanding of martial souls. But if he were to say that Grandmaster was the best on the continent, it was debatable. Lu Yuan admired Grandmaster's understanding of martial souls because his knowledge came from Grandmaster. However, Lu Yuan didn't dare to compliment Grandmaster's understanding of martial souls because his research was still a little low-end. For example, the origin of martial souls. Could martial souls evolve? Why were tool and beast martial souls manifested differently? Could the age of soul rings evolve? These questions were related to the real origin of the rules. Grandmaster obviously hadn't touched on them yet. Of course, Grandmaster couldn't be blamed because a person's vision and outlook were related to their own strength. After all, Grandmaster's strength was a huge limitation. In addition to admiration for Grandmaster's knowledge, Lu Yuan didn't approve of Grandmaster's character. He was self-abased and cowardly. He only knew how to escape. He didn't even dare to love the woman who loved him deeply. He let himself and others down. When Lu Yuan refused to acknowledge Grandmaster as his teacher, although the reason he gave himself was that he wanted to sign in at the Pope's palace, it wasn't necessarily that he didn't dislike Grandmaster's character. After arriving at the Martial Soul Palace, the closer he got to Bibidon and the better Bibidon treated him, the stronger Lu Yuan's resentment towards Grandmaster. Humans were like this. When things didn't concern them, they didn't care. However, when the people around them were the ones who were being let down, they couldn't bear it. Lu Yuan's character had always been to side with those close to him. No matter what Bibidon did, she was his teacher. Lu Yuan wouldn't allow anyone to hurt her. As Lu Yuan was thinking, the Douluo couldn't help but speak up. Your Holiness, The golden-armored dragon turtle that young Master Yuan absorbed not only has extraordinary defensive abilities, but its offensive abilities are also very good. According to young Master Yuan himself, it's already 3,500 years old. 3,500 years old? After hearing the Douluo's words, Helena, who was standing beside Bibidon, opened her mouth wide. She was astonished. One had to know that her third soul ring was only 1,500 years old. Lu Yuan's second soul ring was already 3,500 years old. What a monster! Helena muttered softly. Oh! Bibidon was delighted. Abuchi, is this true? Lu Yuan nodded. Bibidon was even more delighted. If his second soul ring was 3,500 years old, then his fourth soul ring could at least be a 10,000-year soul ring. What a monster! If not for his twin martial souls, even she wouldn't be able to achieve such a soul ring combination. Release your martial soul for me to see, Bibidon said. Lu Yuan nodded and shouted. The golden dragon martial soul instantly appeared in his body. An intense dragon's aura filled the air. A huge projection of the golden dragon appeared behind Lu Yuan. 2 soul rings, one yellow and one purple, appeared below Lu Yuan. As expected, feeling Lu Yuan's aura that far exceeded that of an ordinary soul grandmaster, as well as the yellow and purple soul rings below him, Bibi Dong gently blinked her beautiful eyes. Sure enough, the golden-scaled imperial dragon tortoise's soul rings were really extraordinary. This kind of aura was already comparable to that of a high-rank top-notch beast soul elder. Bibidon was very pleased. Lu Yuan's talent was above Helena's. Bibidon felt honored to have such talented people as Helena and Lu Yuan as his disciples. Of course, neither the Douluo nor Lu Yuan revealed the golden dragon armor's external soul bone here. That was because there were too many people in the pontiff's palace, and external soul bones were too precious. It was safer to reveal them in a private place. Whether it was the experienced Douluo or the intelligent Lu Yuan, both of them understood this very well. Chapter 72. After seeing Lu Yuan's soul rings, Bibidon brought Helena and Lu Yuan back to the island in the middle of the lake. Along the way, Bibidon's beautiful eyes kept glancing at Lu Yuan. This was because the Douluo had told Bibidon about Lu Yuan's external attachment soul bone. Bibidon had returned so quickly because he wanted to see Lu Yuan's golden dragon armor. After all, every external attachment soul bone was very rare, especially one like Lu Yuan's. Even Bibidon had never seen one before. Along the way, Bibidon said casually, "You don't have to go to the plum garden anymore." Lu Yuan paused and raised his head to look at Bibidon. "Teacher, she's already left," Bibidon said softly and continued walking forward. "She? What her?" Helena was a little confused. Could it be the person that junior brother went to see every day? As she thought about it, Helena felt a little jealous. "She's already left." Lu Yuan revealed a look of reluctance. He wanted to see her one last time before he left, but it seemed like he wouldn't have the chance to do so now. "Work hard and cultivate so that I can go out and train as soon as possible," Lu Yuan encouraged himself. As long as he reached a certain level, he could apply to go out and train with Bibidon. When that happened, he would have the chance to see Xiaoshui again. As for now, it was more important to work hard and cultivate. "Xiaoshui, wait for me." Lu Yuan clenched his fists. Lake Heart Island. Only Bibidon, Lu Yuan, and Helena were left in the house. "Abuchi, release your external attachment soul bone for me to see." Bibidon sat on the chair and said. "An external soul bone?" Helena exclaimed. When did junior brother obtain an external soul bone? Could it have been bestowed by the soul beast that had just obtained its second soul ring? Little junior brother's luck was too good. Lu Yuan nodded and shouted. The golden dragon martial spirit instantly appeared in his body. The golden light condensed once again, but this time it was on Lu Yuan's body. The golden light dissipated, and a layer of golden armor appeared on Lu Yuan's body, completely enveloping Lu Yuan. Bibi Dong nodded in satisfaction as he looked at the golden armor on Lu Yuan's body that was layered and full of texture. "Wow, junior brother, Your armor is too beautiful. Lu Yuan's armor was exceptionally mystical. The layers of the armor were distinct, and coupled with the beautiful cloud patterns, it was indeed very handsome. Helena was extremely envious. What skills and specialties does this external attachment soulbone have? Bibidon didn't have any reaction because she also had an external attachment soulbone. Furthermore, it had evolved to the level of 100,000 years. Therefore, although Lu Yuan's external attachment soulbone was rather strange, she wasn't too surprised. Lu Yuan thought for a while before saying, "There are two main skills. The first is to increase all my attributes. I can feel that when I release the external attachment soulbone, all my attributes increase by a lot. The second skill is to be immune to negative statuses. It should be able to be immune to toxic, burning, frostbite, paralysis, and other adverse effects. At the same time, the armor's defensive power is also very strong. Furthermore, this armor is very heavy." "Oh, that's not bad." Bibidon blinked her beautiful eyes. It could be said that an external attachment soulbone had such a great effect. Even 100,000-year soulbone might not be able to do better than this external attachment soulbone. When Helena heard Lu Yuan's introduction, her eyes were already wide open. She had a shocked expression on her face. This soulbone's skill seemed to be a little awesome. "Specifically, how heavy is it?" Bibidon asked. "It should be no less than 2,000 kilograms. Lu Yuan answered. 2,000 kilograms. Helena looked at Lu Yuan with a pair of strange eyes. "You can actually carry 2,000 kilograms of armor so easily?" Looking at Lu Yuan's indifferent expression, he didn't seem to be affected by the weight of the armor. "Sigh, 2,000 kilograms of weight, doesn't this guy feel heavy?" "It's all right. It's a little strenuous. However, I'll get used to it a few more times." His strength could reach 2,500 kilograms under normal circumstances. After the martial soul possession, it was 7,000 to 8,000 kilograms. Although carrying 2,000 kilograms of armor on his back was a little heavy, it wasn't unbearable. 2,000 kilograms. After wearing this armor, you probably won't be able to fight for a long time, Bibidon said thoughtfully. "Yes, teacher." Lu Yuan confirmed Bibidon's thoughts. "After releasing this armor, if I don't use it, it won't consume much soul power. However, if I use it in a fight, my soul power will be quickly consumed. Furthermore, due to its weight, even if I go all out, I should only be able to last for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is enough to last for a fight." Bibi Dong, on the other hand, was quite open-minded. 10 minutes. Even a team competition might not last that long. With the strength of Lu Yuan's Golden Dragon martial soul and this set of external soul bones, he could be said to be disdainful of his peers. Very good." Bibidon smiled. Looking at Lu Yuan with a somewhat gentle gaze, he said, "In 2 days, I might arrange a new teacher for you. You should prepare yourself." "A new teacher?" Lu Yuan gasped in admiration. It seems like Xiao Shui was telling the truth. I wonder how she managed to convince Bibidon. He's someone who's very suitable to teach you. You can also acknowledge him as your teacher. I have no objections." Bibidon said softly. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, "I won't acknowledge him as my teacher. You're the only teacher I'll ever have." Bibidon smiled gratifyingly and said, "Up to you." As he spoke, he waved his hand and said, "You guys can go back first. I'm a little tired and want to rest." "Teacher, please rest first. We'll take our leave first." Lu Yuan and Helena bowed to Bibidon before they both left. "Junior brother, where are you going?" "The way back is this way," Helena asked doubtfully as she watched Lu Yuan walk out of the island. "I'm going to the plum garden." Lu Yuan waved his hand. Helena jogged a few steps and caught up with Lu Yuan. "Teacher, didn't you say that that person has already left and that you don't have to go to the plum garden?" "I know." Lu Yuan's voice deepened and said, "I just want to go and take a look." "Then I'll go with you," Helena said. Lu Yuan hesitated for a moment before he nodded. Helena pulled Lu Yuan's arm into her embrace. Lu Yuan frowned but didn't say anything. He felt that Helena probably only saw him as a close younger brother. And he also saw Helena as his family. As for the love between a man and a woman, there was no such thing. This was because he already had Chihiro Snow in his heart. He didn't want to be a scumbag who had a foot in two boats. But sometimes, some things weren't so easy to do. Chapter 73. The scene changed, and Lu Yuan was once again in the plum garden. It was still the familiar plum garden, but the beautiful figure had disappeared. Looking at the empty plum garden, Lu Yuan felt a little disappointed. There's no one here, junior brother. Let's go back. Seeing that Lu Yuan was not in high spirits, Helena spoke up. Lu Yuan nodded and turned around slightly. Suddenly, a white figure flashed past his eyes. It was a white feather. Lu Yuan was delighted. Under Helena's astonished gaze, he quickly stepped forward and grabbed the white feather. Feeling the familiar purifying power, Lu Yuan's face showed a hint of joy. She's been here. There was no doubt that Chihiro Snow had been here before she left, so she had inadvertently left this feather behind. Knowing this, Lu Yuan's heart was filled with joy. Junior brother? Seeing Lu Yuan holding a feather and smiling foolishly, Helena could not help but ask. Yes, senior sister. Let's go back. Lu Yuan smiled brightly. Seeing Lu Yuan's bright smile, Helena was a little confused. His mood was clearly a little gloomy just now. How did it suddenly become so high? Yes, okay. Helena replied. On the way back, Helena finally could not resist the curiosity in her heart. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was holding the feather tightly, she asked, Junior brother, who do you see every day in the plum garden? Huh. Lu Yuan had a gentle smile on his face, and said, she's called Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow? Helena was a little confused. Who is she? Why haven't I heard of her? Have you never heard of the name Chihiro Snow? Lu Yuan was a little curious. Could it be that even with Helena's status, she had never heard of Chihiro Snow's name? Helena nodded and said, I've never heard of this Chihiro Snow, but her surname is Chen. Could she be related to the head consecrator? Lu Yuan nodded and said, she is the granddaughter of the great consecrator. What? Helena was a little surprised. Could it be that this Chihiro Snow was the daughter of the previous pope? As far as she knew, the previous pope's surname was Chen. Then is she very beautiful? Helena blinked her beautiful eyes. Yes. She is very beautiful. Chihiro Snow's appearance was the most exquisite he had ever seen in his life. It was so exquisite that he couldn't find fault with it. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, and then looking at the slight smile on Lu Yuan's face when he talked about Chihiro Snow, Helena suddenly felt a sense of crisis in her heart. She felt that if she didn't do something, her junior brother would be further and further away from her. With a seductive smile on her face, Helena's entire body was emitting a fatal temptation. She smiled sweetly and asked, Junior brother, do you think she is more beautiful, or am I more beautiful? Of course it is. Lu Yuan originally wanted to blurt out that of course Chihiro Snow was more beautiful, but when the words reached his mouth, he suddenly stopped. Seeing Helena's seductive and expectant eyes, he immediately changed his words and said, both of you have your own merits. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Helena was a little disappointed in her heart, but she quickly collected her emotions and secretly thought, so what if you are the daughter of the previous pope? Junior brother is mine. And you have already left, but I am with junior brother every day. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Helena's imagination ran wild. Suddenly, as if she had reacted, her face blushed, and she secretly scolded in her heart, Helena, oh Helena, what are you thinking? Junior brother is only 8 years old. Could it be that I have really fallen in love with junior brother? That's impossible, right? Helena glanced at Lu Yuan beside her and said, Junior brother is only 8 years old, but he is growing very quickly. He is almost catching up to me. Her pretty face unconsciously blushed. Seeing Helena's blushing face, Lu Yuan was a little confused. What is this woman thinking? Why is she so crazy? Lu Yuan kept the feather in his astral ring, and then walked towards the Lake Heart Island. The Elder's Hall was the most powerful place in the martial Soul Palace. Even the Pope's palace, which was controlled by Bibidon, couldn't compare to the Elder's Hall in terms of strength. The ruler of the Elder's Hall was the rank 99 exceptional Douluo, the great consecrator of the martial Soul Palace, the angel Douluo Sendriu. Elder brother, do you really want me to teach that kid? An elder stood not far from Sendriu. He was the second consecrator of the Elder's Hall, the rank 98 Douluo, golden crocodile. Why? Are you unwilling? Sendriu asked plainly. That's not it. To be honest, I am very interested in that kid's martial soul. The golden dragon is one of the best gold-type martial souls. I am naturally willing to teach such a genius, but this kid is Bibidon's disciple. This is a problem, the golden crocodile said. Sendriu shook his head and said, so what if he is Bibidon's disciple? He is a talent in the martial Soul Palace, and he is very close to Xiao Shui. This is the first time Xiao Shui has asked me for a favor in so many years. Let's not talk about other things, but I have to fulfill Xiao Shui's wish. Elder brother, are you saying that this kid and share, could it be? The golden crocodile hesitated. It's too early to say that. This kid is only 8 years old. This is a good opportunity to see his talent and ability. If he is really worthy of Xiao Shui, then it's not impossible. After all, Xiao Shui needs someone to help her, Sendriu said. Okay. The golden crocodile nodded and said, then leave it to me. I will test this kid. Talent alone is not enough. I want to see how strong his willpower is. Okay, then I will leave it to you, Sendriu said plainly. He trusted his old brother, the golden crocodile. On the other side, Lu Yuan pushed away Helena's tail that had unconsciously wrapped around his body. Looking at the sleeping Helena, who was sprawled out on all fours, a black line flashed across his forehead. What kind of sleeping posture is this? It's all the same. Picking up the quilt that had been kicked to the side, Lu Yuan gently covered Helena with it, then quietly left the room. When Lu Yuan's figure left the room, the originally sleeping Helena suddenly opened her eyes, a trace of craftiness flashing through them. Waking up early every day was Lu Yuan's habit. Especially after obtaining his second soul ring, Lu Yuan was even more diligent. Because his soul power had suddenly soared to rank 24, Lu Yuan still needed to practice his control. He was determined to make it as easy as it was before. Moreover, he had to practice the vast ocean spear art and phoenix dance 6 illusions every day, especially the spear technique. Currently, Lu Yuan was stuck at the door of Spear Force. He was only half a step away from it. Once he comprehended Spear Force, his strength would increase again. While Lu Yuan was diligently training, a beautiful figure was looking at Lu Yuan. It was Bibidon. Looking at the diligent Lu Yuan, the corners of Bibidon's mouth curled up into a smile. Chapter 74. Bibidon wore the Pope's robe and held the golden scepter in her hand. Her temperament was truly peerless. Although she was already in her 40s, time did not seem to have left the slightest trace on her body. Her figure was still as graceful as a young girl's. Her snow-white skin was crystal clear, exuding a soul-stirring charm. Not to mention other things, just her appearance alone was not worthy of the master's zombie face. Bibidon was very satisfied with Lu Yuan as her disciple. He was talented and hardworking enough. Over the past year, except for a few days, he would practice here almost every morning. Although Bibidon had never said it, she remembered it in her heart. Her impression of Lu Yuan was getting better and better. After all, who wouldn't like a disciple who was good-looking, talented, educated, and hardworking enough? Bibidon also liked this disciple very much. In her heart, Lu Yuan's position was no different from Helena's. In addition to being master and disciple, there was also the feeling of family between them. After all, Bibidon was alone, and Lu Yuan was also an orphan except for his adoptive father, the Fellows. Helena was even adopted by the Martial Soul Palace since she was young, and she only had Evil Moon as her elder brother. They were all alone, but it was easier for them to get along. In the open space not far away, Lu Yuan held the Emperor Dragon Shocks the World and displayed his spear skills smoothly. His spear skills had improved a lot compared to before. Every move and every style seemed to have a condensed momentum. This was the sign that Lu Yuan was about to step into the spear force. Once he stepped into the spear force, every thrust of the spear would carry the momentum of monstrous waves. At the realm of spear force, before the spear arrived, the opponent would be oppressed by the momentum and would be weakened by 30%. Teacher. Bibidon watched Lu Yuan practice the spear. Helena walked to Bibidon's side. Oh, it's Nana. Bibidon smiled gently and pointed at Lu Yuan, who was not far away, and said with a smile, I'm afraid this junior brother of yours has already caught up to you. It was not difficult for her to see that Lu Yuan's current strength had completely caught up with Helena's. In fact, Helena might not even be his opponent. Yes, I know. My charm has no effect on him at all. Helena pouted her little mouth. Her strongest point was her charm, but it didn't have much effect on Lu Yuan. Not only was Lu Yuan's spiritual power innately strong, but he also had the clear Qi scripture to stabilize his mind. Helena's charm did not have much effect on him. Bibidon smiled and rubbed Helena's head. It's not that your charm is not strong. It's just that Ibuchi is a little special. His spiritual power is much stronger than soul masters of the same rank, so your charm did not have much effect on him. However, there is only one such prodigy like Ibuchi in the entire continent. You don't have to worry too much. Yes. Helena nodded. An hour later, Bibidon, Helena, and Lu Yuan sat together and ate breakfast. Ibuchi, follow me to the elders' hall later. Bibidon put down his bowl and chopsticks, took out a silk handkerchief to wipe his mouth, and said to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan nodded. He knew that Bibidon should be bringing him to find his new teacher, Golden Crocodile. Helena glanced at the two of them while eating her porridge. She was very curious about Lu Yuan's so-called new teacher. Going to the elders' hall meant that Lu Yuan's new teacher should be an elder of the elders' hall. But which elder would it be? After breakfast, Bibidon brought Lu Yuan to the elders' hall. Although the elders' hall and the pontiff's hall were both in the martial spirit city, there was still a certain distance between them. Moreover, Bibidon and Sendriu had an inexplicable grudge, so Bibidon rarely came to the elders' hall. However, Bibidon did not let go of this powerful force. On the surface, he was calm and collected, but in fact, he had secretly begun to rope in the elders' hall. Now, there were 9 elders in the elders' hall, and 2 of them were Bibidon's people. Bibidon's ability was evident. Bibidon held a scepter in his hand and walked in front, showing his power. Lu Yuan followed behind Bibidon. The elders' hall was also built in a very imposing manner. The tall palace exuded a mysterious majesty. Bibidon walked in without announcing his arrival. Lu Yuan followed behind Bibidon. In the elders' hall, Sendriu, Golden Crocodile, and the other elders were all present. Other than the snake spear Douluo and thorny pufferfish Douluo who were protecting Chihiro Snow, there were also 7 titled Douluo. This was the foundation of the martial spirit palace. Sendriu's expression did not change at all when he saw Bibidon swagger in. He stared straight at Lu Yuan, who was behind Bibidon. You are Lu Yuan? Lu Yuan lifted his head and saw an elder in white. His silver hair was combed neatly, and his hands were behind his back. He did not look old, and one could tell that he was handsome when he was young. The aura he exuded was as deep as the abyss. Lu Yuan had only vaguely sensed this kind of pressure from Bibidon. Lu Yuan greets the head consecrator and the elders. Lu Yuan bowed. Bibidon could ignore etiquette because of her status. However, he was only a soul grandmaster. Even though he was the Pope's disciple, he still had to bow when he saw the elders. Yes, you are not bad. In front of so many titled Douluo and elders, Lu Yuan was neither servile nor overbearing. He was elegant and composed. Not to mention anything else, just his intelligence alone was not something that an ordinary person could possess. Furthermore, Lu Yuan was only 8 years old. The elders nodded silently. Lu Yuan's demeanor was not ordinary. He was indeed the Pope's disciple. Head consecrator, I believe you know why I'm here. Therefore, I shall not beat around the bush. Let's get down to business. Bibidan's cold voice sounded. Sendryu nodded and said, then let's begin. Golden Crocodile, I'll leave it to you. Golden Crocodile, who was sitting below Sendryu, nodded. He stood up and carefully sized up Lu Yuan. He nodded and said, take a few steps forward. Lu Yuan obeyed and took a few steps forward. Suddenly, a huge pressure pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. Aura pressure. This was the aura pressure that a high-ranked Soul Grandmaster exerted on a low-ranked Soul Grandmaster. When the difference in soul power between the two parties was too great, the high-ranked Soul Grandmaster could use his aura to pressure the low-ranked Soul Grandmaster. Given the gap between Lu Yuan and the golden alligator Douluo, it was naturally impossible to calculate. The huge aura pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. This aura was at the level of a Soul Grandmaster from the very beginning. Generally speaking, a Soul Grandmaster could be considered not bad if he could resist 2/3 of his soul power rank's pressure. If he could resist an aura that was equal to his soul power rank's pressure, he could be considered a genius. Lu Yuan was now a rank 24 Soul Grandmaster. Golden Crocodile's aura was equivalent to a rank 21 Soul Grandmaster's aura. This aura was already 2/3 of Lu Yuan's rank. Chapter 75. Seeing the strength of the aura released by the Golden Crocodile, Sendryu's gaze subconsciously drifted towards Bibidan. However, Bibidan's expression remained indifferent. There was even a hint of mockery in his eyes. She had absolute confidence in Lu Yuan. How could such a small amount of pressure suppress Lu Yuan? He was her disciple. She was very clear about how heaven-defying this kid was. As expected, Lu Yuan didn't react at all in the face of a rank 21 soul power pressure. It was as if there was no pressure at all. The Golden Crocodile raised his eyebrows, then increased the intensity of the pressure again. As his aura rose, the pressure jumped from rank 20 to rank 24. Rank 24 was already the same as Lu Yuan's soul power. Generally speaking, being able to resist the same amount of soul power pressure was enough to be called a genius. Even in the martial Soul Palace, perhaps only the Golden Generation could do this. However, when it came to Lu Yuan, he still didn't react to the rank 24 soul power pressure. Lu Yuan's aura was still so stable. His body didn't tremble at all. Let alone reaching his limit, he didn't even release his martial soul. Interesting. The Golden Crocodile was interested. He wanted to know where this kid's limit was. His aura rose again. In an instant, he had reached rank 28. Lu Yuan frowned slightly. At rank 28, he could already feel the all-pervasive pressure. It was like a layer of shackles binding his body. However, although it was a little uncomfortable, Lu Yuan could still support it. The clear chi scripture in his body quickly circulated. This was a peerless cultivation technique with an extraordinary origin. It displayed its strength. Although the clear chi scripture might not be the kind of cultivation technique with explosive attack power, it had the advantage of being continuous, dense, and endless. This was almost unique to Daoist cultivation techniques. The after effect of the clear chi scripture was also one of the best among Daoist techniques. Its toughness and recovery ability were very shocking. Therefore, a lot of the pressure Lu Yuan was enduring was completely resolved by the clear chi scripture. Moreover, Lu Yuan's physique was very strong. In addition to the strong physical body of the Golden Dragon, he also had the Atlas palm bone and the Golden Dragon armor. The quality of his body was close to that of a soul ancestor. Seeing that Lu Yuan was still as relaxed as before, the Golden Crocodile directly increased the pressure to that of a soul elder. This increased the pressure greatly. Lu Yuan felt as if there was a river around him that was pressing down on him tightly. This pressure was like being in deep water, and that kind of pressure was really pervasive. Not only was it oppressing Lu Yuan's physical body, it was also targeting Lu Yuan's spirit. This was because when the body was under great pressure, whether or not one could persevere depended on one's willpower. Although Lu Yuan felt uncomfortable facing the pressure of a rank 30 soul elder, he still stood as straight as a pine tree. Apart from a slight frown, not a single drop of sweat appeared on his body. This was because Lu Yuan didn't just have a strong physical body, his spiritual power also far surpassed his peers. This time, the consecrated in the Elders' Hall were all astonished. Rank 30 soul power was already 6 ranks higher than Lu Yuan's own strength, but Lu Yuan was still as relaxed as before. He didn't even release his martial soul. This was a true genius. The future is promising, a consecrated softly said. Hearing this, the few consecrators around him nodded subconsciously. Hearing the consecrated whispers, the corner of Bibidan's mouth hooked up into an imperceptible smile. This disciple of hers was still far from reaching his limit. He still had the powerful external soul bone, the golden dragon armor, on his body. Looking at the consecrated around her, she knew that this disciple of hers would win her face today. Seeing that Lu Yuan still hadn't released his martial soul despite being at rank 30, the golden crocodile slightly praised Lu Yuan in his heart. Then, he increased the pressure again. No matter how far this kid could persevere today, he was definitely going to teach this disciple of his. When his soul power reached rank 34, Lu Yuan's body trembled. That enormous pressure almost made him unable to breathe. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on his body, almost suffocating him. At this time, the golden dragon, which had already been unable to hold back, instantly attached itself to his body. A loud and clear dragon's roar resounded throughout the Elders' Hall. Golden diamond-shaped dragon scales climbed up both sides of Lu Yuan's cheeks. Golden scales also climbed up both of his arms. 2 soul rings, one yellow and one purple, emitted a dazzling light, and the absolute aura of the golden dragon gushed out. The golden dragon was proud. If anyone dared to pressure it in front of it, it would immediately activate the innate power of its martial soul. Coincidentally, the golden crocodile's pressure made the golden dragon feel that its dignity was being violated, so it unscrupulously released its own pressure. What a powerful martial soul! It's worthy of being a legendary martial soul. Sendryu's eyes flickered. The power of this martial soul had already surpassed Chihiro Snow's seraphim. It could be said to be the strongest martial soul he had seen in all these years. Whether it was Pasisi's sea god or Tang Chen's clear sky hammer, they seemed to be inferior. Other than not having innate full soul power, it was almost no different from a god-ranked martial soul. Other than the golden dragon's power that shocked everyone, Lu Yuan's soul ring combination was even more shocking. His second soul ring is a 1,000-year soul ring? One of the worshippers unconsciously raised his voice. The worshippers looked at each other and were a little shocked. Everyone knew that the best soul ring combination should be yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 because a 100,000-year soul ring was difficult to find. Even if one was extremely lucky, the 9th soul ring would only be a 100,000-year soul ring. However, they had never heard of anyone's second soul ring being a 1,000-year soul ring. This was practically breaking the record. Even the proud daughter of heaven, Chihiro Snow, didn't seem to be able to do it. Sendryu's eyes flickered. He naturally knew more than the others. His 9 soul rings were 8 black and 1 red, but that was the reward for the god test. Without the test reward, even he couldn't get a 1,000-year soul ring. Interesting. Sendryu became interested in Lu Yuan, this 8-year-old kid. I heard that this kid's relationship with Xiao Shui is not bad. Maybe I can take him in. Sendryu's thoughts turned. His relationship with Bibidon couldn't be said to be good. If he could poach Bibidon's disciple to assist Xiao Shui, it seemed to be a good choice. The golden crocodile's eyes revealed a look of admiration. Lu Yuan had really given him the biggest surprise. This talent really moved his heart. A top-grade martial soul that surpassed the best soul ring combination. If he could teach such a genius, it could be considered a fortunate thing. Furthermore, this kid also had a gold-type martial soul like himself. Thus, accepting his legacy would be the most suitable. The golden crocodile thought inwardly. Chapter 77. To every capable person, especially an old titled Douluo, it was undoubtedly the greatest fortune for them to have someone to inherit their legacy. After all, no one would want their abilities to be lost. To the golden crocodile in front of him, Other than the martial soul palace, he only cared about his own legacy. He was very happy that he had finally met someone who could inherit his legacy today. To the golden crocodile, there was no one more suitable than Lu Yuan to inherit his legacy. The golden dragon martial soul was a top-tier martial soul among gold-type martial souls. It was the most suitable for him to inherit his legacy. Furthermore, this kid in front of him was such a genius. He was only 8 years old, but he was already at rank 24. Furthermore, he had soul rings that exceeded the best combination. Even the golden crocodile had never seen such a prodigy in all these years. If someone had to be compared, only Xiao Shui could compare to him. If this kid grew up, he might really be able to become a huge helper for Xiao Shui. It had to be said that the golden crocodile and Sendryu had the same thoughts on this matter. Hence, the golden crocodile wanted to know where Lu Yuan's limit was even more. The pressure continued to rise, and he was already at rank 38. Rank 38 was a difference of 14 ranks compared to Lu Yuan's rank 24 soul power. Even Lu Yuan was almost at his limit. Lu Yuan's forehead was covered with beads of sweat. His arms were clenched tightly, and his veins were exposed. It was obvious that he was an arrow at the end of its flight. Has he reached his limit? Sendryu nodded inwardly. To be able to resist rank 38 soul power, he was already very talented. The golden crocodile also sighed inwardly. It seemed like this kid's limit. Rank 38 was not bad. The consecrated also nodded inwardly. Not only was this kid's martial soul powerful and had a high combination of soul rings, but his willpower was also extraordinary. As expected of the Pope's disciple. In their hearts, they also expressed their approval of Sendryu's arrangement of the golden crocodile to teach Lu Yuan. Unlike the others, Bibidan's eyes were still calm. This was because she knew that Lu Yuan still had a trump card that he hadn't revealed yet. Swish. Golden light intersected and shone in the Elder's Hall. It was different from the golden dragon's brilliant gold. Although this dazzling gold was still very eye-catching, it was a dark gold color. Upon closer inspection, a dark gold armor covered Lu Yuan's body. The moment the armor appeared, Lu Yuan's aura skyrocketed. His body, which was already at its limit, stood up straight again. His eyes had turned completely golden, filled with arrogance and nobility. This is. A strange look flashed across Chen Daoliu's eyes. Even he was a little shocked. This is an external soul bone. The golden crocodile was also very knowledgeable. He immediately recognized that the armor on Lu Yuan's body was an external soul bone. Furthermore, it was an extremely rare full-body armor-type soul bone. Hiss. In the consecrated hall, the consecrated all sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, they were greatly surprised. A top-grade martial soul, a superb combination of soul rings, an external soul bone, and a strong willpower. How could they not be surprised when such a genius was a member of the martial soul palace? Of course, there was no lack of envy. After all, soul bones were extremely rare treasures. Furthermore, it was an external soul bone that was 1 in 10,000. Only people with great luck could obtain it. However, if they knew that apart from the golden dragon armor, Lu Yuan also had a set of palm bones, they might be so shocked that they would be speechless for a long time. Sendryu's eyes flashed. Even he was attracted to such a genius. If he nurtured him properly, he might be able to peek into the highest realm. Even if he was slightly lacking, he might be able to reach his current level. At this moment, Sendryu really wanted to nurture Lu Yuan. Originally, Sendryu wanted to nurture Lu Yuan more because of Chihiro Snow's pleas. Now, however, Lu Yuan's talent was enough for Sendryu to focus on nurturing him. As for Lu Yuan being Bibidan's disciple, he was not worried about this. This was because he was confident that his granddaughter could subdue Lu Yuan. Because his granddaughter was chosen by God. No matter how talented Lu Yuan was, as long as he was not blessed by God, he would always be below Chihiro Snow. However, he did not know that there were some people in this world who could not be described with common sense. For example, some people who had their own systems. After the golden dragon armor was on, Lu Yuan felt a lot more relaxed. In the blink of an eye, the pressure had reached the level of a soul ancestor. After reaching the level of a soul ancestor, even Bibidon was a little worried for Lu Yuan. This was because the pressure was too high. No matter how strong Lu Yuan's body was, or how powerful his soul bones were, he was only rank 24. Jin Alligator was shocked as he looked at Lu Yuan, who was trembling a little. This was because the pressure had reached rank 44. It was a whole 20 ranks higher. Limit. This time, Lu Yuan had really reached his limit. Even with the golden dragon armor, Lu Yuan had really reached his limit under the pressure of rank 44 soul power. The immense pressure was like Mount Tai pressing down on his heart. It was very difficult for him to even move. Piercing pain came from all over his body. Sometimes, the pressure was not only directed at the outside of his body, but also his internal organs. His internal organs were much more fragile than his muscles. Suffocation. He really felt like he was about to suffocate. Persevere, persevere. Even though his face was already red and his body was shaking a little, Lu Yuan still persevered. Bibidon's gaze became gratified and serious. He was gratified because his disciple was really a peerless genius with amazing perseverance. However, he was serious because Lu Yuan was obviously at his absolute limit. If he was not careful, he could be injured. Sendryu was also staring at Lu Yuan. Resistance that exceeded rank 20. Such talent was really scary. The other consecrated also had a look of approval in their eyes. They were all high and mighty titled Douluo, but they had to admit that this child's talent was far beyond theirs. It was not impossible for him to become a great consecrated in the future. Geniuses were worthy of respect no matter where they went. Lu Yuan's face slowly turned purple. This was a sign that he was about to collapse. The golden crocodile was shocked. He was ready to withdraw his soul power at any time. Bibidon's jade-like hand gripped her scepter tightly. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a fierce look. If anything happened to Lu Yuan, she would definitely not let it go. Sendryu was also prepared. He was ready to save Lu Yuan from collapsing at any time. After all, even the martial soul palace could not afford to lose such a genius. I'm so tired. I can't take it anymore. Lu Yuan's consciousness was a little blurry. Under the immense pressure, even with his spiritual power, he could not hold on under the extreme pressure of his physical body. No, I can't give up. Lu Yuan's spiritual power was screaming crazily. At this moment, a huge force burst out from the depths of Lu Yuan's blood. A terrifying force was starting to awaken. Chapter 79. This was a power that had awakened from the depths of his body. It was a power that was completely different from soul power. The moment this power awakened, a huge amount of energy began to rapidly restore Lu Yuan's physical and spiritual strength. Like rain after a long drought, Lu Yuan's body hungrily absorbed this energy. His body's strength began to rapidly increase. His body, which had already reached its limit, was once again restored. His pair of black eyes regained their golden color. On the other side, the golden crocodile, who had originally wanted to withdraw his soul power, was stunned when he saw Lu Yuan's restored spirit. The pressure of his soul power disappeared without a trace. Sendryu, Bibidon, and the various consecrated, who had been watching Lu Yuan, were also shocked. They saw that Lu Yuan was in high spirits. He didn't look like he was on the verge of collapse at all. Did he break through his limit? Sendryu's voice carried a hint of surprise. Lu Yuan's current spirit was even better than before he had undergone the oppressive test. If this wasn't breaking through his limit, then what was? Bibidon's eyes were also filled with praise. It was obvious that she also thought that Lu Yuan had broken through his limit. She couldn't help but feel happy for Lu Yuan. Good. Golden Crocodile's voice carried a hint of surprise. He had actually broken through his own limit. With such talent and such tenacious willpower, he was definitely going to teach this disciple. The consecrated present also had praise in their eyes. No matter which side they were on, Lu Yuan was still a member of the martial soul palace. That was enough. At the very least, Lu Yuan now represented the martial soul palace. Furthermore, Lu Yuan was not only a disciple of the pontiff's palace, but was also about to be taught by the golden crocodile. It could be said that whether it was Bibidon's faction or Sendriu's faction, they didn't have any ill feelings towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan felt an additional powerful force in his body, and he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Just what is this? He could feel that his strength and physical strength had improved once again. Although his soul power hadn't changed, his strength had increased by a few notches. This strength seemed to originate from the depths of his bloodline. It was an innate strength, and today, under the all-pervasive pressure of the golden crocodile, he had broken through his shackles and completed his breakthrough. When this power burst forth, Lu Yuan felt that not only did his strength increase greatly, but his body's quality had also improved. Even the strength of his martial soul seemed to have increased by a few degrees. This was truly somewhat inconceivable. Very good. Sendriu's wise eyes looked at Lu Yuan with satisfaction and said, "From today onwards, you will learn from Golden Crocodile." "Golden Crocodile, I'll leave this child to you," Sendriu said. "Okay, big brother." Golden Crocodile readily agreed. He didn't have a trace of resistance towards accepting Lu Yuan as his disciple. "Kid, acknowledge me as your master." Golden Crocodile's voice rang out. In the face of Golden Crocodile's request to acknowledge him as his master, Lu Yuan ultimately chose to reject it. To him, his only teacher was Bibidon. Even the Golden Crocodile wasn't enough for him to acknowledge him as his master. Unexpectedly, although the Golden Crocodile was a little disappointed, he still accepted the task of teaching Lu Yuan, but he didn't acknowledge him as his master. From the beginning to the end, he wasn't angry. Not only was Lu Yuan surprised, but even Bibidon was a little puzzled. However, what Lu Yuan didn't know was that the Golden Crocodile was a very affectionate person. Although Lu Yuan's talent had surprised him, his refusal to acknowledge him as his master was even more tempting. This was because it was really difficult to find a loyal successor. In the Golden Crocodile's opinion, his successor's talent and character were indispensable. However, this was also because the Golden Crocodile was an affectionate person. If it were Sendriu, then Sendriu had never been an affectionate person. Lu Yuan didn't like Sendriu, but he was Chihiro Snow's grandfather, so Lu Yuan was willing to give him some respect. Otherwise, even if he was an ultimate Douluo, Lu Yuan might not think highly of him. He was just an ultimate Douluo. Lu Yuan was confident that he would be able to beat Sendriu in less than 20 years. Of course, after 20 years, Lu Yuan might become a god. Therefore, although he didn't acknowledge the Golden Crocodile as his master, Lu Yuan still respected him very much. He also changed the way he addressed him from Senior Golden Crocodile to Grandpa Golden Crocodile. Since he couldn't be his disciple, it seemed like being his godson wasn't bad either. I digress. The happiest person was Bibidon when Lu Yuan refused to acknowledge him as his master. This meant that she was one of a kind in Lu Yuan's heart, and only she was Lu Yuan's only teacher. At this moment, Bibidon had completely accepted Lu Yuan. In Bibidong's heart, a disciple who respected his teacher and spoke of emotions had already quietly surpassed Hu Liena's position. After all, he had rejected a rank 98 pinnacle Douluo in front of all the elders. Furthermore, he was the second consecrator of the martial Soul Palace. If it had been anyone else, they would have agreed long ago, let alone rejected him like Lu Yuan did. This was because not only did he offend Golden Crocodile, but he also embarrassed Sendriu. How much courage did it take to reject him? It was also because of this that Bibidon was very touched. Lu Yuan was indeed her good disciple. If Lu Yuan knew that his actions today would leave a deeper impression on Bibidon's heart, perhaps he would be even happier. This was because there weren't many people in this world that he cared about so far. The fellows, Chihiro Snow, Bibidon, and Hu Liena were only 4 people. This was why he cherished his relationship with everyone. In his heart, Bibidon was no longer just a simple teacher, but a family member. This was why he didn't want Bibidon to be sad. Even if he had to reject the Golden Crocodile's request to accept him as his disciple, he was still willing to do it. Of course, Bibidon's looks were also important. After all, Lu Yuan was a person who had 3 organs and 5 facial features. Who wouldn't like a beautiful teacher? Wasn't she much better than an old man? He returned to Lake Heart Island with Bibidon. As for the golden crocodile's guidance, it would only start tomorrow. From tomorrow onwards, he would go to the Elder Hall 3 days a week and be guided by the golden crocodile. The rest of the time, he would still be on Lake Heart Island. Not only were there beautiful senior sisters here, but there was also a beautiful teacher. Wasn't it good to live here? Once he returned to Lake Heart Island, Lu Yuan went straight to his room and secretly connected to the system. At the same time, he prepared to check the power that was surging out of his body. System, open my information panel. Ding, the host's information panel is below. Host, Lu Yuan age, 8 rank 24 soul Grandmaster Martial Soul, Golden Dragon, God-slaying Spear Soul Ring, Golden Dragon, yellow, purple, bloodline, 2nd generation Golden Dragon cultivation method, Clear Chi scripture, Mountain Sea Fist, Phoenix Dance 6 illusions, Vast Ocean Spear Art Soul Bone, Golden Dragon battle armor, Sky Raising Palm Bone weapon, Emperor Dragon shocks the world item, Star Ring. Looking at the brand new information panel and the new bloodline option, Lu Yuan was puzzled. 2nd generation Golden Dragon bloodline, what exactly is this thing? Chapter 80. 2nd generation Golden Dragon bloodline, what is that? Lu Yuan's heart was full of doubts. He remembered that he had never come into contact with this thing before. From the moment he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the ugly face of the fellows. Before he was 6 years old, he had never left Notting City. The origin of the Golden Dragon martial soul had already made him a little puzzled. Now that there was a 2nd generation Golden Dragon bloodline, he was even more surprised. When did it come? The system had never rewarded him with the Golden Dragon bloodline. And the 2nd generation Golden Dragon bloodline seemed to be quite powerful. The 1st generation Golden Dragon was the Golden Dragon King. The 2nd generation Golden Dragon had inherited the purest Golden Dragon King bloodline. It should be on the same level as the 9 Great Dragon Kings. Even if it was not as good, it should be close. The strength of this bloodline was limitless. As long as he could keep digging, his future would be limitless. Lu Yuan was a little puzzled but also surprised. At the same time, he also understood something. The golden armored dragon turtle took the initiative to be absorbed by him. Perhaps it was not entirely because of the golden dragon martial soul. Perhaps it was because of his noble and pure 2nd generation Golden Dragon bloodline. Even if the bloodline had not awakened at that time, the golden armored dragon turtle, who also had a thin golden dragon bloodline, might have already felt it. That was why it was so cooperative and even gave an external soul bone, the golden dragon armor. Lu Yuan thought about it a lot, but he had to admit that it did make some sense. Lu Yuan was naturally puzzled about the origin of the bloodline, but he did not ask much. This was because his system was not as intelligent as other people's systems. Instead, it was a little cold. Sometimes it would answer some questions, but most of the time, it would choose not to answer. When Lu Yuan raised his question, the system did not give any answer, which made Lu Yuan feel a little helpless. With such a system, the readers should know why the system's appearance rate was so low. However, since the system did not say anything, Lu Yuan was not disappointed. Anyway, he had obtained a bloodline, so he would use it first. Sooner or later, he would know the answer. Lu Yuan was quite open-minded. After thinking for a while, Lu Yuan put his doubts aside. What he was concerned about now was how to use and develop his pure bloodline. This was the most important thing. The appearance of this bloodline further strengthened Lu Yuan's physique. Regardless of whether it was strength or defense, they had all increased substantially. Furthermore, this was a power that was different from soul power. Perhaps it could be called vitality force. Right now, Lu Yuan was truly brimming with blood and energy. His vital energy was like a beacon, and the strength of his vital energy wasn't any weaker than his soul force. In fact, it was even better in terms of endurance. This meant that even if Lu Yuan's soul force was exhausted, he could still fight with his vital energy. If the two were combined, the The power might be even stronger. However, this was only the beginning of the emergence of his vital energy, so Lu Yuan still had to study it in detail before he could make better use of it. In this regard, Lu Yuan didn't have any experience to rely on, so he could only fumble around on his own. After all, not everyone could possess vital energy. Looking at the entire Douluo continent, Lu Yuan knew that only Tang Wulin in Battle 3 was able to make good use of his vital energy. Even Wang Chua in Battle 2 possessed a golden dragon martial soul, but her golden dragon bloodline was very thin, so she didn't use much of her vital energy. Lu Yuan's bloodline was naturally inferior to the golden dragon king's bloodline, and it didn't possess any divinity or divine power. It was only abnormally pure, so it could be said that its potential was limitless. However, to what extent it could be used would depend on Lu Yuan's own efforts. His situation was different from Tang Wulin's. He only had his bloodline, while Tang Wulin had the Golden Dragon King's divine core sealed within his body. Aside from the Golden Dragon King's bloodline, the divine core also contained the Golden Dragon King's divine power, so it could be said that the Golden Dragon King's entire body had been given to Tang Wulin. In contrast, Lu Yuan only had his bloodline. In reality, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. This bloodline completely belonged to Lu Yuan, so he wouldn't be constantly threatened by the Golden Dragon King's seal like Tang Wulin. On the other hand, he would be completely under Lu Yuan's control, so it wouldn't affect Lu Yuan's path. Tang Wulin's growth would more or less be affected by the Golden Dragon King's bloodline. In contrast, Lu Yuan could forge his own path through his bloodline, and perhaps he would be able to break through the bloodline shackles in the future if he was given the right opportunity. As for Tang Wulin, he would only be able to reach the Golden Dragon King's level at most. Lu Yuan nodded as he sensed the abundant Golden Dragon bloodline within his body. If he could use this power as he pleased, then he really would be able to establish a foothold on the continent. He wouldn't have to rely on the power of the martial soul palace, he could rely on himself. As long as he could master this power, then he would definitely be able to establish a foothold on the continent. Just as Lu Yuan was thinking to himself, the door was suddenly pushed open, and a figure rushed in. Lu Yuan's expression hardened as he raised his head. "Senior disciple sister, why are you here?" Time flew by like water, and another year flew by in the blink of an eye. During this year, Lu Yuan's strength had increased by quite a bit. Perhaps it was due to the awakening of his bloodline, but Lu Yuan's cultivation had become much smoother. He had actually risen by 4 ranks in a row, and now his soul power was at rank 28. One had to realize that without any external interference, a soul grandmaster could still rise by 4 ranks in a year. This speed could be said to be extremely fast. Lu Yuan's cultivation in the martial soul palace was naturally quite good, but he almost never consumed any soul power increasing herbs. This was because using herbs to increase one's soul power would cause one's soul power to become unstable, which would affect one's future path. Unless it was an immortal herb. If it was an immortal herb, then not only would it greatly increase one's soul power, but it would also strengthen one's foundation and strengthen one's aptitude. That was what Lu Yuan wanted. Speaking of immortal herbs, Lu Yuan thought of something. He didn't know anything about immortal herbs, and even the Martial Soul Palace's records weren't complete. Over the years, he had flipped through all the books in the Martial Soul Palace's hidden scripture pavilion, and there were only a few records of immortal herbs, but they weren't complete. Therefore, Lu Yuan turned his attention to the Ju Douluo. To be honest, if it wasn't necessary, he really didn't want to see the Ju Douluo. The Ju Douluo was good at everything, but his androgynous appearance was a little unbearable. Furthermore, he would occasionally cause trouble, and Lu Yuan couldn't accept it. Standing outside the Ju Douluo's room, Lu Yuan took a deep breath and knocked on the door. "Elder Ju, are you there? I'm Lu Yuan." Creak. The door opened without any wind, and the Ju Douluo's figure appeared at the door like a phantom. He was so fast that even Lu Yuan didn't notice him. What speed! As expected of a titled Douluo. A look of surprise flashed across the Ju Douluo's eyes when he saw Lu Yuan outside the door. He raised his fingers and said, "Aya, it's Yuan. You're a rare guest. Why are you here?" Chapter 81. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, "Elder Ju, this junior has come to ask for Elder Ju's help." "Oh, do you still need my help with something?" The chrysanthemum Douluo's interest was piqued. The current Lu Yuan was no longer the Lu Yuan of a year ago. After receiving the golden alligator Douluo's guidance, Lu Yuan could be said to be very popular in both the Pontiff's palace and the Elder's palace. Almost every titled Douluo knew of Lu Yuan's existence. At the same time, he was highly regarded by Sendriu and Bibidon. Furthermore, he had the golden crocodile's endorsement. Almost no one in the Pontiff's palace dared to provoke him. Even a titled Douluo like the Ju Douluo had to treat him with respect. Of course, Lu Yuan and the Ju Douluo were on very good terms. Lu Yuan smiled and said, "I've been studying some rare herbs recently, and I heard from my teacher that Elder Ju has an ancestral collection of immortal herbs, so I came to borrow it. I hope Elder Ju can help me with this." "So you want to borrow my immortal herbs?" The Ju Douluo said, "It's not impossible, but you have to do something for me." "Something? What do you mean?" Lu Yuan couldn't help but shudder when he saw the Ju Douluo's eyes. "Does he want me to?" "That's impossible." A look of determination flashed through Lu Yuan's eyes. He had to protect himself. The Ju Douluo naturally didn't know what Lu Yuan was thinking. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how he would feel. "What do you think of our relationship?" the Ju Douluo asked. Lu Yuan was slightly taken aback. "We're very close." Indeed, he had been on very good terms with the Ju Douluo ever since he had joined the Martial Soul Palace. "Since we're so close, why do you keep calling me Elder Ju?" the Ju Douluo asked with an angry expression. "What?" Lu Yuan was confused. "Then how should I address you?" "Call me Uncle Ju." Ju Douluo smiled. "All right, Ju. Uncle." Lu Yuan finally called out under the chrysanthemum Douluo's gaze. "Ari, very good." A warm smile appeared on the Ju Douluo's face as he said, "Wait for me." After saying that, he turned into a blur and ran back into the house. The Ju Douluo abruptly appeared in front of Lu Yuan, and only the blink of an eye had passed since he had entered to retrieve the book. Lu Yuan reflexively accepted the book that the Ju Douluo was handing to him. When he opened it, he saw that it was filled with illustrations of various immortal herbs. "Thank you, Uncle Ju," Lu Yuan said. "Yes." The Ju Douluo nodded in a pleased manner, and said, "I'll lend you this immortal herb collection, little Yuan, but you have to return it to me after you're done reading it. This is a treasure that has been passed down in my family for generations, so you can't lose it." "Got it, Uncle Ju." Lu Yuan smiled, and then quickly slipped away with the collection of immortal herbs. Lu Yuan quickly left. Being with the Ju Douluo was very stressful. This Ju Douluo's personality was very strange, and Lu Yuan really didn't like being with him. "What does he mean by asking me to call him Uncle Ju?" Lu Yuan was a little confused. After returning to the island at the center of the lake, Lu Yuan carefully read through the immortal herb collection in his hands. There were all types of immortal herbs recorded in the book, and there were many types that he was familiar with, such as the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, beautiful silk tulip, yearning heartbroken red, and 8-petal immortal orchid. There were also some that he had never heard of, such as the serene snow exquisite ganoderma, radiant young essence accumulating grass, profound young meridian fruit, and so on. Lu Yuan was dazzled by the list. Not only did the book introduce the medicinal properties of each type of immortal herb in detail, it even recorded the method to harvest them. Lu Yuan was ecstatic to see this. With this immortal herb collection, he would be able to sweep through all of the immortal herbs in the Icefire Yin-Yang well. Lu Yuan was completely entranced by the book when a delicate hand suddenly patted him on the shoulder. Lu Yuan's heart jolted with shock, and he reflexively pressed the person behind him onto the bed. A familiar cry of surprise rang out, and Lu Yuan's eyes trembled as the ferocious look in his eyes disappeared. "Senior disciple sister, why are you here?" Lu Yuan faltered slightly at the sight of Hulena beneath him. He had been completely entranced by the book when he was suddenly interrupted, and he instinctively unleashed a counterattack, but he didn't think that it would be Hulena. "What are you doing, junior disciple brother?" Helena struggled as Lu Yuan pinned her to the bed with a chokehold. However, Lu Yuan's strength was too great for her to break free. "Oh, senior disciple sister, I'm sorry. I thought someone had broken in." Lu Yuan retracted his hand in embarrassment and was about to stand up. A sly look flashed across Helena's eyes when she saw that Lu Yuan was about to stand up. She suddenly wrapped her arms around Lu Yuan's neck. Lu Yuan's legs trembled, and his body fell forward, pressing heavily on Helena's body. A musky scent wafted into Lu Yuan's nose. This scent was very pleasant, and it was Helena's scent. "Senior disciple sister, stop fooling around. Let go of me." With Helena hugging his neck tightly, Lu Yuan's body and Helena's body were pressed tightly together. That kind of soft girl's body made Lu Yuan feel a little strange. Ever since his bloodline awakened, Lu Yuan's height had skyrocketed within a year. Although he was only 9 years old, he was already close to 1.7 meters tall. His height was no less than that of a 13 or 14-year-old boy, and his development was more mature. After all, he was the owner of the Golden Dragon bloodline, so it was normal for him to develop faster. Now that he was so close to Helena, how could he not feel it? He wanted to get up, but he was afraid that his struggle would hurt Helena, because his current strength was already very strong, close to 10,000 jin. It could be said that it was quite terrifying. In this year of learning from the Golden Crocodile, the things he learned were very simple, which was to train his body and control his strength. He had a good grasp of his strength, but not long ago, he had further awakened his bloodline. Originally, his strength was around 4,000 jin, but now it was close to 10,000 jin, making it difficult to control. If he wanted to properly control his strength, he'd need a bit of time to get used to it. But right now, he wasn't able to perfectly control his strength. Helena was a high-stage soul exalt, but she was skilled in using her spirit. Her physical body was weak, and Bai Yunfei was worried that he'd accidentally hurt her. "I won't," Helena said in a proud tone. Her hands were tightly wrapped around Lu Yuan's neck, and the two were staring at each other. They could hear each other's breathing. Looking at Lu Yuan's handsome face, Helena's face reddened, and she said shyly, "Junior brother, I think I might like you. What do you think I should do?" Bang! Helena's voice was like a heavy hammer to Lu Yuan's head, causing his heart to be in a perilous situation. How could Helena like him? He only had Qian Runxue in his heart. "Senior sister, don't joke around. This isn't funny at all." Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. Chapter 82. I'm not joking. Helena looked at Lu Yuan and said in a serious tone. She was a person who dared to love and hate. Since she liked Lu Yuan, even if she was a little shy, she still said it in front of Lu Yuan without hesitation. Facing Helena's sparkling eyes, Lu Yuan's heart was a little tangled and evasive. He really treated Helena as an elder sister. Now, his heart only had Chihiro Snow. "Senior sister, I already have someone I like." Lu Yuan hesitated for a long time, and then made up his mind. Even if he hurt Helena's heart, he had to make it clear. Otherwise, if this continued, it would be more troublesome. As for why he didn't accept both of them, well, Lu Yuan really didn't have this thought, but now that he hadn't settled Chihiro Snow, he didn't have the mood to provoke others. "Is it that Chihiro Snow?" Helena's voice trembled, and there was a trace of unwillingness. "Yes." Lu Yuan nodded and didn't hide it. He liked Chihiro Snow, and there was no need to hide it. Even in front of Bibidon and Sendryu, he dared to say it out loud. He wasn't like Yu Xiaogang, that trash, who didn't dare to say that he liked her. He, Lu Yuan, liked Chihiro Snow. In this life, he must marry her. That's how firm he was. Hearing Lu Yuan's words without hesitation, Helena's eyes reddened, and she looked straight at Lu Yuan. Looking at Helena's lonely face, Lu Yuan's heart couldn't bear it. After all, Helena was one of the few people he cared about in this world. "Junior brother, what's wrong with me? What can I not compare to her? Is my figure not good? Am I not pretty?" Her first confession was rejected. This made Helena feel a little frustrated. At the same time, she felt a strong sense of unwillingness. What was wrong with her, Helena? Did Lu Yuan really look down on her that much? Seeing the tears in Helena's eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't bear it and said softly, "Senior sister, of course you're good. You're beautiful and have a good figure." Helena's figure was definitely not bad. Although she was only 14 years old, she already had the size of a double C. Moreover, her slender waist and charming face were simply bursting with temptation. It could be said that among the younger generation of the martial Soul Palace, Helena was the goddess of more than 90% of the male students. For example, Yang of the Golden Generation was Helena's loyal bootlicker. Unfortunately, the bootlicker ended up with nothing in the end. "Then why don't you like me?" Helena looked at Lu Yuan with misty eyes. Lu Yuan gently wiped away the tears in Helena's eyes and said, "You don't need a reason to like someone. When I saw Cher for the first time, I knew that I had fallen in love with her." "From the first time? You're saying that you've liked her since you were 6 years old?" Helena opened her eyes wide. What kind of magic did this Chihiro Snow have? "You fell in love with her at first sight. I've slept with you on the same bed for almost 3 years. In the end, I was rejected when I confessed to you." This made Helena feel even more unbalanced. Lu Yuan nodded lightly. "Is this Chihiro Snow beautiful? How's her figure? Is her talent as good as mine?" Girls loved to compare themselves, especially a proud girl like Helena. She couldn't stand being inferior to another girl, especially when the boy she liked talked about another girl. The tenderness in his eyes made Helena even angrier. "Cher is very beautiful. Her figure is also very good. As for her talent, she should be a little bit better than you," Lu Yuan said slowly, not daring to look at Helena's eyes. "What?" Hearing Lu Yuan seriously say that Chihiro Snow was more talented than her, Helena felt extremely unbalanced in her heart. "Lu Yuan, you have no conscience. Even if her talent is better than mine, can't you say it tactfully? Will it kill you to comfort me?" She pulled Lu Yuan's head back to the side. Helena pretended to be fierce and said, "Try saying what you just said again." "Senior sister, you." Seeing Helena's originally teary eyes filled with anger, Lu Yuan suddenly came back to his senses. He actually said that Chihiro Snow was better than her in front of Helena. Wasn't this courting death? Did he lose his mind just now? Ha. Lu Yuan laughed awkwardly as he tried to avoid eye contact. "Look at my eyes." Helena's tone was light, but it had a trace of determination. Lu Yuan unconsciously looked at Helena. Looking at Helena's serious expression, this was the first time he saw Helena like this. "Lu Yuan, Helena, like you. I won't give up." Helena's eyes were firm. Even if Lu Yuan liked Chihiro Snow, so what? She was going to snatch Lu Yuan. "Senior sister, you. I already have someone I like, you don't have to." Before Lu Yuan could finish, Helena suddenly raised her head and cut him off. Lu Yuan's eyes widened. Helena's red lips were pressed against his. He was actually being kissed by Helena. It had always been him kissing others. Today, he was actually being kissed by someone, and this person was his senior sister. Lu Yuan looked at Helena in disbelief. He didn't think that Helena would be so bold. Helena bit down hard, her eyes unwilling to be outdone as she looked at Lu Yuan. The two of them stared at each other for a long time. Helena's eyes burned with stubbornness. She was a person who dared to love and hate. Since she liked someone, she would definitely fight for it. Chihiro Snow was far away in Heaven Do, but she was with Lu Yuan every day. She didn't believe that she couldn't win over Lu Yuan with her methods. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. As long as she used the hoe well, there was no wall that couldn't be dug down. Starting from today. Seeing the provocation in Helena's eyes, Lu Yuan suddenly felt a surge of anger. He wrapped his arms around Helena's slender waist and launched a counterattack against Helena's red lips. Sensing Lu Yuan's sudden counterattack, Helena was stunned. Then, a trace of a smile appeared in the corner of her eyes. Hugging Helena tightly in his arms, Lu Yuan kissed Helena's lips forcefully. Helena also hugged Lu Yuan tightly and responded passionately. In the blink of an eye, several minutes passed. A trace of light flashed through Lu Yuan's mind, and he instantly woke up. Looking at Helena, he hurriedly let go of her and raised his head. His lips parted. Looking at Helena in front of him, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with complex emotions. A trace of reluctance flashed through Helena's eyes. Her hands were still tightly wrapped around Lu Yuan's neck, and her eyes were filled with affection. Junior brother, senior sister, let go of me. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a trace of shame as he spoke softly. Helena didn't speak. She gently kissed Lu Yuan's lips again. Then, she moved closer to Lu Yuan's ear and said softly, "Junior brother, I won't give up on you." After saying that, she let go of his arms. After getting rid of Helena's restraint, Lu Yuan hurriedly stood up. Looking at Helena, who was still lying on the bed, a trace of panic flashed through his eyes as he said, "Senior sister, I still have to return the book to Elder Ju. I'll leave first." After saying that, he hurriedly ran out of the door. Looking at Lu Yuan's fleeing figure, Helena chuckled. She stretched out her jade hand and held it tightly. Her voice was soft as she said, "Junior brother, you definitely can't escape from my palm." Chapter 83. Lu Yuan ran all the way out of the room and came to an open space, where he gave himself a hard slap. Just now, how could he face Xiao Shui? Feeling the burning pain on his face, Lu Yuan's heart was filled with self-blame. This was great. He had wanted to make things clear with senior sister, but with this move, things were getting more and more messed up. Why did he suddenly have such an inexplicable anger? Actually, Lu Yuan didn't know that this was actually the influence of his martial soul. The power of the god-slaying spear was indeed limitless. Even though he had the clear breath scripture protecting him, and even though Lu Yuan hadn't used it again, the god-slaying spear was still subtly influencing Lu Yuan. Normally, it wasn't obvious, but under the temptation of Helena, Lu Yuan's desire was instantly magnified under the stimulation of the god-slaying spear, which led to his actions this time. Not long after, under the influence of the clear breath scripture, Lu Yuan recovered. Although the god-slaying spear couldn't affect Lu Yuan normally, when Lu Yuan's emotions fluctuated, it was very likely that he would be taken advantage of and be influenced to do things that went against his original intentions. Other than the god-slaying spear, the golden dragon martial soul and the golden dragon's bloodline also had a certain influence. Dragons were lustful by nature. This was an objective fact. The more qi and blood, the stronger the essence, the easier it was to be tempted when it came to that kind of thing. Luckily, Lu Yuan had the clear breath scripture to calm his mind. In addition, Lu Yuan's willpower was very strong, so he had been able to control it very well. However, Helena was a naturally seductive person. Her allure was imaginable. After such intimate contact with Helena, even with the clear breath scripture, Lu Yuan's bloodline couldn't help but become restless. In addition, the god-slaying spear added fuel to the fire and gave the final blow, which was why Lu Yuan had acted so inappropriately. Luckily, he reacted in time and nothing irreversible happened. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have the face to see Chihiro Snow again. Even if she wanted to do something inappropriate, she had to do it with Chihiro Snow first. However, Lu Yuan hadn't thought of this yet. He thought that it was because his willpower wasn't strong enough. No, this can't go on. After today's incident, Lu Yuan's heart was somewhat traumatized. If he continued to be with Helena and slept on the same bed every night, he was really afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself and would regret it forever. Originally, Lu Yuan was very confident in his self-control, but now, he was a little uncertain. "Why don't we leave for a while first?" Lu Yuan said secretly. "Hey, that's a good idea." Lu Yuan praised his own idea. As long as he left Martial Spirit City, not only could he escape the temptation of Helena, he could also find Chihiro Snow. It could be said that he was killing two birds with one stone. But what reason should I use? He was only 9 years old now. Even if he wanted to go out and gain experience, Bibidon might not allow it. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up. I can go back and see the old man. I haven't seen him for 3 years. I think Master won't reject my suggestion. When I come back, I can also find time to go to Heaven Do to see Cher. Aya, that's great. I'm really smart. Lu Yuan clapped his hands and praised his own idea. The next day. You want to go back to Notting City? In the Pope's palace, Bibidon looked at the young man who was almost the same age as himself. His eyes were filled with emotion. This disciple of his was not only handsome, but also talented, loyal, and wise. He was really a rare talent. No matter what, he was very satisfied with him. Beside Bibidon, Helena suddenly raised her head when she heard that Lu Yuan wanted to leave the martial spirit palace and go to Notting City. There was a trace of sadness in her eyes. How could someone as smart as her not think of Lu Yuan's idea? Do you want to avoid me that much? Helena thought to herself. Looking at Helena's eyes, Lu Yuan looked away guiltily. Yes, Master. I haven't seen my father for 3 years. I miss him very much. Lu Yuan said. If that's the case, then go. I'll get someone to escort you back. Bibidon said. Lu Yuan wanted to see his family. Bibidon naturally wouldn't reject such a request. Thank you, Master. Lu Yuan was secretly happy. It seemed that he would be able to leave Helena very soon. It was really uncomfortable to be tempted by such a seductress all day. However, he could finally escape from the sea of suffering. Master, I'm also very interested in Junior Brother's hometown. Can I go with Junior Brother to take a look? Helena suddenly said just as Lu Yuan was feeling complacent. Sure. Bibidon said lightly. Then this time, you can go with Abuchi. Thank you, Master. Helena was like a weasel who had stolen a chicken. She looked at Lu Yuan proudly. Mph, Junior Brother, you want to get rid of your senior sister? No way. Lu Yuan's face stiffened. Damn it, she's going to follow me to death. Junior Brother, you don't have any objections, right? Helena looked at Lu Yuan playfully with a smile on her lips. No, of course not. I'm very happy that senior sister can go to Notting Academy to take a look. Lu Yuan was a little depressed, but he still had to pinch his nose and say such words. Then I'll have to trouble Junior Brother to take care of me, Helena said with a smile. Before Lu Yuan could say anything, Bibidon said, Abuchi, when you go back to Notting City, bring your senior sister around. You're more familiar with the place. Also, it's rare for your senior sister to go out, so have fun. Yes, Master. Although he was very depressed, Lu Yuan still had to agree to Bibidon. Turning his head to look at Helena, Lu Yuan said with a fake smile, Senior sister, don't worry. I'll take good care of you. Thank you, Junior Brother. Helena secretly wrinkled her cute nose at Lu Yuan. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. It's over this time. I've dug a hole for myself. Lu Yuan was a little helpless. He cupped his hands at Bibidon and said, Master, I'll go back and prepare first. Since he was going back to Notting City to see the fellows, he had to bring something back and let the old man have a taste of the specialties of Martial Spirit City. Go. Bibidon waved his hand and said. Lu Yuan bowed again and turned to leave. When he turned around, he deliberately glared at Helena. Helena made a funny face at Lu Yuan, full of the joy of victory. Lu Yuan left. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan's back as he left, then looked at Helena and asked curiously, Nana, I noticed that your and Abuchi's lips were a little red and swollen. What's going on? Hearing this, Helena's face instantly turned red. Chapter 84. Hearing Bibidon's question, Helena's face blushed. Her lips were red and swollen from kissing. Damn, Junior Brother, why did you kiss so hard? Now that teacher found out, it was so embarrassing. Maybe it's because the food has been too good recently, so I'm a little heaty. Helena closed her eyes and made up a story. Heaty? Bibidon's eyes flashed with a strange look. Do you really think that I, Bibidon, don't know anything? I've eaten more salt than the rice you've eaten. Cough cough. Bibidon coughed twice and said, Nana, you and your junior brother are still young, so, do you understand? Ien, this disciple understands. Helena's face was red. Damn it, teacher really found out. Helena's head was lowered. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. It was too embarrassing. Looking at the shy Helena, Bibidon knew that her disciple was shy, so she didn't continue to tease her. She said seriously, this time when you go out with your junior brother, you have to take good care of him. Although he's very mature, he's still a 9-year-old child. As his senior sister, you have to be more tolerant. Understood, teacher. Helena nodded her head lightly. Bibidon sighed. She patted Helena's head and asked, Nana, do you really like your junior brother? Bibidon's tone was a little complicated. Because her daughter also seemed to. This damn brat, how could he capture both her disciple and her daughter in one fell swoop? Thinking of this, Bibidon couldn't help but feel angry. Whether it was Chihiro Snow or Helena, they were both talented and beautiful girls. In the end, it seemed that they were going to fall into the hands of Lu Yuan. Even though Lu Yuan was her disciple, even though they were as close as flesh and blood, Bibidon was still a little jealous. She always had the illusion that her cabbage was being eaten by a pig, but fortunately, this pig was also her own. Helena nodded and replied softly. She really fell in love with Lu Yuan. She didn't know when it started, but in the beginning, she always liked to tease her junior brother. However, as time passed, Lu Yuan's talent, Lu Yuan's strength, Lu Yuan's wisdom, as well as his handsome appearance, everything about Lu Yuan seemed to be deeply engraved in her mind. Her teasing of Lu Yuan had long evolved into deep affection. Every night when Lu Yuan was meditating, she would closely watch him from behind for a long time before falling asleep. Every day when she woke up and opened her eyes, she could see Lu Yuan's handsome face. This feeling made Helena deeply intoxicated. It was a pity that Lu Yuan, her beloved junior brother, also seemed to have his own sweetheart. This made Helena somewhat frustrated. In the depths of her heart, she actually felt a little jealous of Chihiro Snow, whom she had never met. Sigh. Seeing Helena's expression, Bibidon knew that this girl had already fallen deeply and couldn't extricate herself. But Lu Yuan, that brat. Thinking of how Lu Yuan used to go to the plum garden almost every day, rain or shine, Bibidon knew that this disciple of his had probably fallen in love with his daughter. On one side was his daughter, and on the other side was his disciple. Bibidon was also somewhat in a difficult position. She had raised Helena since she was a child and had long regarded her as her own daughter. And Chihiro Snow was born from her 10 months of pregnancy. Even if Bibidon hated Chihiro Snow because of Chihiro disease, but the affection between mother and son was deep. She still loved Chihiro Snow in her heart. In this way, both of them were flesh and blood. If you really like Abuchi, then go ahead and pursue him. Abuchi is a good child. He values friendship and righteousness. He is also a good match for you. In Bibidon's heart, this disciple of Lu Yuan was her greatest pride. There was not a single flaw in him. But perhaps it was because of this perfection that he was particularly attractive to women. Even Chihiro Snow and Helena, who had extremely high standards, were unknowingly captivated by him. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied with Chihiro Snow and Helena liking the same person at the same time, this person was Lu Yuan. Bibidon could still accept it after struggling for a while. At worst, the two of them would be together. This kid was really lucky. If Lu Yuan knew what Bibidon was thinking now, he would definitely give her a thumbs up. As expected of the Pope, his mind was so broad. Unfortunately, he did not know, so he was still worried about how to deal with Helena. Helena was also surprised when she heard Bibidon's words. Then, her pretty face was full of joy. Teacher, you agree that I and Bibidon nodded. But, junior brother seems to already have someone he likes. Helena said in a disappointed tone. Bibidon smiled and said, this will depend on your own ability. How can you make Abuchi approve of you? Teacher believes that you can do it. I will not give up. With Bibidon's support, Helena was full of confidence. Teacher, thank you. Helena bowed deeply to Bibidon. Hehe, you little girl. Bibidon patted Helena's shoulder and said with a smile, go. Helena nodded and then walked out of the Pope's palace. Just as Helena was about to go out, Bibidon's voice came. Your junior brother attracts the attention of girls too easily, so this time you have to be careful when you go out. Don't let your junior brother be snatched away. Bibidon's tone was playful. I know, I won't let those vixens have a chance to get close to junior brother, Helena said and then turned to leave the Pope's palace. Vixens? Bibidon's face showed a trace of strangeness. This girl, are you talking about yourself? Saying that, he shook his head helplessly. Bang! A pillow hit Lu Yuan's head and hit him in the head. Senior sister, what are you doing? Seeing Helena holding a pillow in each hand, Lu Yuan had a trace of helplessness. It's all your fault. Helena said coquettishly. It's all my fault. What did I do wrong? Lu Yuan was a little confused. You hit me with a pillow as soon as you came in, and now you're blaming me? Do you think I, Lu Yuan, don't have a temper? Looking at Lu Yuan's innocent look, Helena didn't know where the fire came from. She pointed at her red lips and said, Look at what? Seeing Helena pointing at her red lips, Lu Yuan's face was full of confusion. What, this girl still hasn't kissed enough? Although it was very comfortable to kiss, but he already had little snow in his heart. He wouldn't do such a thing again. Look, my lips are swollen, Helena said word by word. So what? Am I not the same? Lu Yuan said indifferently. Who told you to bite so hard last night? I couldn't hold back, you can't blame me. Looking at Lu Yuan's indifferent look, Helena stomped her feet and said, Teacher knows about what happened last night. Doesn't she know? Lu Yuan waved his hand and suddenly reacted. He stood up and asked, what did you say? Teacher knows. Chapter 85. Hearing that Bibidon knew that he and Helena kissed, Lu Yuan was a little flustered. If Bibidon thought that there was something between him and Helena, then wouldn't his relationship with Chihiro Snow be ruined? It must be known that whether it was Helena or Chihiro Snow, they were both very important to Bibidon. If it was just any one of them, as long as Lu Yuan liked them, he believed that Bibidon wouldn't mind. Instead, he would be happy to see it happen. But if it was related to both of them, Lu Yuan was really worried that Bibidon would kill him. What did the teacher say? Lu Yuan asked cautiously. Looking at Lu Yuan's worried and scared look, Helena curled her lips and said, What, are you afraid? Before Lu Yuan could speak, Helena's voice sounded again. I'm afraid, you didn't kiss me back then. Oh, so I kissed you first. Hearing the ridicule in Helena's tone, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Didn't you also not refuse? I saw that you kissed so passionately afterwards. Helena said indifferently. Hearing these words, Lu Yuan's face stiffened. Indeed, this was his fault, and he couldn't shake it off. How was it? Did it feel good to kiss your senior sister? Looking at Lu Yuan's stiff face, Helena deliberately moved in front of Lu Yuan and blew a breath at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes. The woman in front of him was really narcissistic. However, the feeling of kissing was really good. However, Lu Yuan couldn't admit defeat with his mouth. He gently turned his head and said, It's just like that. Stubborn duck. Helena scolded softly when she saw Lu Yuan's arrogant look. What? Do you still want to try it with your senior sister? Helena licked her red lips, a charming look on her face. Looking at Helena's alluring red lips, Lu Yuan fiercely shook his head and said, Forget it, I'm not interested. Oh, I'm not interested in your senior sister. Are you interested in that Chihiro Snow? Helena said lightly with a hint of jealousy in her voice. That's right. Lu Yuan nodded without hesitation. You. Her chest heaved with anger at Lu Yuan's attitude. Helena suppressed the anger in her heart and said, What? Did young Master Lu kiss that Chihiro Snow? That's right. Lu Yuan's habitual reply burst out. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately regretted it. You You guys really kissed. Then last night wasn't your first kiss? Helena touched her chest with a trace of tears in her eyes. Senior sister, Lu Yuan had just opened his mouth when he was interrupted by Helena. Don't say anything. Helena walked towards Lu Yuan, her eyes fixed on him. Lu Yuan slowly retreated and sat down on the bed with a plop. Looking at the approaching Helena, he couldn't help but feel his heart tremble. Senior sister, what are you trying to do? Don't mess around. Helena took a step forward and pressed Lu Yuan down on the bed. Then she stared at Lu Yuan and said, since last night wasn't your first kiss, then I can't lose out. I want to make up for my loss. As she spoke, her red lips pressed towards Lu Yuan. Senior sister, don't. Before he could finish his words, his lips were blocked by her red lips. Lu Yuan's eyes widened. At the same time, he secretly circulated the clear chi scripture to calm his mind. He was afraid that he would suddenly become impulsive like last night. He raised his hand to push Helena away, but Helena hugged his neck. Her slender white legs were tightly wrapped around Lu Yuan's body like an octopus. Lu Yuan was a little helpless. If he used force, he could break free, but that would definitely hurt Helena. He immediately sighed in his heart and said secretly, Little Shui, you really can't blame me this time. I was forced to do it. He didn't respond or resist. Helena kissed for a while. Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't respond at all, her heart ached. She fiercely clenched her teeth, and a wave of pain instantly filled Lu Yuan's mind. Blood dripped from between their lips. Helena let go of Lu Yuan. Her red lips were still stained with Lu Yuan's blood. Her originally red lips became even more seductive. Lu Yuan sighed helplessly and touched his lower lip. There was a small wound on it, and there was also a conspicuous bite mark. Lu Yuan raised his head. Helena happened to glance over as well. Their eyes met, and they didn't speak for a long time. The next day, outside the Pope's palace, the carriage back to Nordine was already prepared. It was quite luxurious. Looking at Helena, who didn't seem to have any abnormalities, Lu Yuan blinked and asked, Senior sister, you really want to go back with me? Why, am I not welcome? Helena said lightly. No, if senior sister is willing to go with me, I'm more than happy to, Lu Yuan said. Lu Yuan was now very helpless towards Helena. Their relationship was really getting more and more complicated. If he had originally dared to pat his chest and say that he didn't have any feelings for Helena, after 2 kisses, he no longer had the courage to say such words. People can't lie to themselves. If he asked himself honestly, if Helena were to marry someone else in the future, would Lu Yuan really be willing? Most likely, he wouldn't be willing. He really didn't know how to face his relationship with Helena. If he said that he liked someone, then he still loved Chihiro Snow. This had never changed. If he had to choose one, then he would still choose Chihiro Snow. But it was undeniable that he also had feelings for Helena. Looks like I'm not a good person either. Lu Yuan secretly mocked himself. He had already fallen in love with Chihiro Snow, but under Helena's teasing, he still couldn't help but be moved. Sure enough, there were no good men. Eating in the bowl and looking at the pot. He had always thought that he was different from other men, but now, it seemed that he was just as bad. Helena naturally didn't know what Lu Yuan was thinking. At this time, she was looking at Bibidon who was walking over. Behind Bibidon was an old man in black with a head full of white hair. He was Lu Yuan's other teacher, Golden Crocodile. Greetings, teacher, Golden Crocodile. Helena's voice sounded, waking Lu Yuan up. Greetings, teacher, Grandpa Golden Crocodile. Lu Yuan also hurriedly bowed. Bibidon waved his hand and said, no need to be so polite. Abuchi, Nana, this time, the second consecrator will escort you back to Notting City. You have to listen to the second consecrator's words along the way. Understood, teacher. Both of them replied in unison. Then we'll have to trouble you, Grandpa Golden Crocodile, Lu Yuan said. The golden alligator Douluo nodded and revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. He said, it's no trouble at all. I also want to go to Notting City to see what kind of place could nurture a genius like you. Looking at Lu Yuan, the golden crocodile's eyes were full of smiles. He was quite satisfied with Lu Yuan after teaching him for more than a year. He didn't have any children and had long treated Lu Yuan as his own grandson. And it was also because of Lu Yuan's existence that the relationship between the Pope's palace and the consecrator's palace eased a lot. Otherwise, Bibidon wouldn't have come with the golden crocodile this time. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.